My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Okay, so this is the entity of stalkers. That vehicle's driving away after stalking at what is 403. This is H as in Henry Street. This is all under the fake sun. Remember, the fake sun is setting in alignment to apartment number 82 at Woodside Senior Apartments, which is the opposite street where I just came from over here. This white woman is stalking me. Here's the fake sun. And she does so by being where she lives in alignment with the fake sun in the morning while she is gang stalking on her property. This is the government, 9REY064. And demographics, this is a white woman stalking a black woman. And she's a murderer. She's a sex offender. She's a demon as well. This is the P.O.C. You are going to prison while you're gang stalking with the people of the state, with the government. That's engaging in that pattern of conduct. I'm documenting the facilitating venues that are engaging in what is a sex offense. She's monitoring my vagina inside of the apartment at Woodside Senior Apartments. She's a sex offender. She's a demon. This is why Southwest Airlines is flying over here. Southwest Airlines has no flights that are going to be over here. None. And the Grove Apartments are engaged in criminal summoning. You know what that is? That's the Grove. Those are the mentally ill of American Medical Response monitoring with this white woman who was stalking in my path with light activity. It's a demon. This is criminal monitoring, federal stalking. All right, when the entity does that with a police vehicle, it's immediately federal prison. But this is going to be involuntary commitments, mentally ill. You want to exhibit how mentally unstable you are, how much of a threat you are, how like you like to engage in what is monitoring people inside of their private spaces, stalking them, you're going to be committed. This is 412 H Street. Where you have no privacy, it's not private property. You certainly maintain no right to do that. And this is a lily white woman that's gang stalking. Okay, engaging in that while going on about the rest of her life. She's a psychopath. She's a demon-possessed sex offender. And she's monitoring in the private space where the entity had this fake sun, as you saw yesterday evening, at the 6:48 p.m. There is no natural environment. We're at 412 H Street, H as in Henry. The fake sun's going to be, as you know, the evidence shows after 6 p.m. The entity has the fake sun at H Street and Euclid Avenue, which is right here at this intersection. The entity is engaging in criminal summoning. The entity stalked me by helicopter. Another item of video evidence. The entity last night, 6:48 p.m. at Woodside Senior Apartments. The entity has the fake sun aimed through the patio, speaking to a stalker that's obsessed. The fake sun documentation, the stalking with impossible light activity, is speaking to a stalker. While she is driving outside on Vine Avenue, impossible light activity was manifesting inside of that apartment. Absolutely impossible. This is what they're doing, which is stalking. 8 NCP 961. Co-conspiring, and that's criminal summoning that's going on the record for the Grove Apartments. That's a tactic. That's what the John Stewart Company apartments engage in with the municipality. It's going on the playlist. They're being prosecuted. That's when residents, they're being federally prosecuted. They are stalking under a fake sun, and this is the mentally ill that are engaging in that pattern of conduct. This is speaking to what fills the library all day long, sitting around stalking and obsessing, engaging in babysitting with the government, okay? It's not just the mental illness, it's the audacity. This is what the government engages in and then utilizes a Baker Act. This is the state that's a gang stalker, the state that's engaged in surveillance in concert with a mentally ill population. They're all mentally ill, and then creates legislation in order to establish you as being mentally ill, were you to ever speak to the fact that some random white woman is stalking, and she is. Science is convicting her, and evidence is going to have her committed. She's not doing it by herself. They're all in their facilitated venues, not private property, which is going to be addressed and acknowledged under federal law, that they're engaging in surveillance, which is prosecuting them. This is facilitating venue H Street and North Vine Avenue, where the fake sun, as I've shown as a matter of history, this entity has been engaged in surveillance for a prolonged period of time. Since 2018, 2019, this entity committed kidnapping at Woodside Senior Apartments with Jonathan Burnett. The entity engaged in this pattern of conduct with regard to what is theft of my vehicle with the Ontario Police. This is the entity that engaged in defacing my vehicle and then stealing and claiming that it was abandoned when I was living in it, and they were stalking me by helicopter, doing so under a fake sun. My evidence that they don't want you to see while they access my accounts and delete the descriptions, which is not removing the evidence. This is the entity that's going to be subject to martial law and federal raids, prison. This is a P.O.C. I want you to see that, because this is what the entity is engaging in while I'm leaving what is Vine Avenue, documenting a bunch of vagina monitors. They're being federally prosecuted for monitoring vagina while I'm inside of what is the facilitating venue where I alone maintain my right to privacy. Oh, the people of the state that are gang stalking don't have any privacy. The government's engaged in surveillance with the people, and they're engaged in violating the privacy of a woman, and they're all sex offenders in doing so, and they think that under the Baker Act, they can depict you as being mentally ill. And this is a major plot twist. These are the demons that are gang stalking, coming out of your home, and doing so, that's the P.O.C. And this is mental illness, this is public corruption, this is sexual violence. A bunch of vagina monitors, P.O.C. Vagina monitors, okay? Stalkers. And this is the pattern of conduct. This is the P.O.C. at what is 403 H as in Henry Street, where the fake sun, you're not exercising under the fake sun. She needs to exercise, okay? But those widespread, that's engaging in what is gang stalking me. All right, that's the P.O.C. It is currently 7:32 a.m. The entity's keeping the fake sun over Stater Brothers. The entity has the fake sun over me when I'm in Upland, California. The entity has the fake sun still on the same street 10 hours from now. P.O.C. K444Y1. This neighborhood is engaging in the pattern of conduct. It is speaking to what is the compensation of the targeted individual. They're going to compensate me for the criminal activity that they've been engaged in, and doing so in an effort to criminally defame me and kidnap. That is this old white woman that I don't know is acting in furtherance of murdering me. With the airlines, with the entities talk about helicopter, they're fully engaged in it. That's why they're gang stalking and living under a fake sun. It is the P.O.C. That's K444Y1 pacing. That's mentally ill behavior. That goes on the record. That goes against them. That's you providing evidence to actual medical professionals who are going to diagnose you. This is what the entity engages in. This is why I want to be clear. Tracy Banks is going to prison. The demons that she was coaching in furtherance of trying to teach other people how to steal my property and what to do with regard to having taken advantage of documents of my identity. Tracy Banks is going to prison. And so are the demons that are Jason Fields and the lesbian that he met. They're both homosexuals. And they're both going to federal prison. While all these demons are gang stalking me in the state of California. And this is speaking to the repeal of the Baker Act. This is the system under which the Baker Act operates. And the Baker Act shall be repealed. It is P.O.C. It is currently 7:33 a.m. This is juxtaposed with the scientific evidence of the fake sun. Okay, the fake sun that is present at the end of the day at this same neighborhood where they're speeding down residential streets, and the traffic is not going to be amplified inside of an apartment building, but it is an engineered light because they're all monitoring. They're a bunch of demons. The mentally ill that are in need of martial law. P.O.C. Alrighty, the video evidence that you just listened to is a direct reference to the criminal monitoring, the mental illness that is simultaneously being captured by an entity that's conspired murder, and that is speaking to the repeal of the Baker Act. The mentally ill and the corrupt entity that is the state of California has sought to establish creating what is a conservatorship power of attorney that was never valid, and is engaging it through criminal activity that it commits with a corrupt population that are all stalking. And they're stalking in the absurd means of that which is occurring under a fake sun and a whole illusion of an environment, which is speaking to mass commitments by the entity that is actually mentally ill, including those that create such legislation for such overt and obvious acts of corruption and criminal activity targeting American citizens. This is outside of what is any legitimate practice of medicine, practice of law, and legitimate or actual existence of jurisdiction by the courts that are engaging in surveillance in California. The entity is gang stalking, as you can see under the fake sun. They're doing so while I'm on 8th Street, and everybody on this street is stalking. They're maintaining light activity as I move through the environment. This is the same exact conduct while they are maintaining nothing other than surveillance in a library. So this is showing you what are the stalkers that sit around in a library and take shifts engaging in what is stalking surveillance in a library, because that's where I'm at. That's where the target individual is at. That's also shown through a fake sun that sits over the library. So while I am at the Upland Public Library in Upland, California at Arrow and Euclid Avenue, and San Bernardino County Fire is using lights and sirens at the moment that I'm not only turning on my communication device, but at the moment that I am exiting that venue, you can clearly see that fake sun. That is indicating to you what American Medical Response is doing with its lights on under the same environment, which is also impossible. I'm the same person, and at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, I'm under the fake sun, and I did not take a flight to any other coast. I stayed on the same coast. I stayed in what is the same state, and I stayed in what is the same county. The sun is not rising and setting in the same county. Okay, let alone what I'm documenting from Upland to Ontario, capturing what is a pattern of conduct, that in and of itself. But there's more detail behind that. The entity is engaging in criminal summoning San Bernardino County Fire at 7:02 p.m. at the Upland Public Library while it's there in the morning, and while I stay in Ontario at Woodside Senior Apartments, where this white woman that I never met, nor do you have to ever meet them, nor do you have to identify somebody specifically when they're stalking with impossible light. You're documenting the government that's engaging in criminal activity like the Grove is, manifesting what is impossible light while stalking, which is what the Grove is doing while they are on the property in that environment, maintaining criminal surveillance. This is a prosecution of Wynn residents. All right, they are gang stalking, and I'm documenting a white van pulling up at the property as I'm at the curb. This is an Asian male engaging in that. This is the entity that's engaging in that systematic means of surveillance. And while they come and engage in whatever business, which is a means of gang stalking, they're stalking with impossible light. And they do so while you see me documenting, but they do so as though nothing is happening. It's business as usual. That's the mentally ill that are picking up. I want to be clear also, those that are immigrants, those that are engaging in this surveillance system, doing so with impunity is what I'm documenting. You'll see the fake son, and that's the evidence that he's stalking with impossible light while he comes and picks up the aged at the Grove, which is a 55 plus property, and they're all relying on HUD housing. Grove is being removed from that program, and so are all of the property residents who are engaging in HUD housing benefits while they're stalking in furtherance of murder with the government. And the entity is stalking in the commercial planes over Grove property, Wynn residents. They're stalking with impossible light at the property. They are coming outside to engage in stalking in the path. You saw that old Asian male standing on the sidewalk? Yeah, they're losing all their property, all their ability to engage in what is receiving housing benefits. And while this demon comes onto the van, picking up the people of the state, they're loading into the white van. I'm taking pictures of this while I'm describing it. And impossible light moves across the apartment complex, just like you saw inside of the apartment yesterday evening, inside of the Woodside Senior Apartments complex, that which I documented for a prolonged period inside of Tracy Banks's apartment. Tracy Banks, the same one that has sought to steal my identity, has lied about my character, has stolen money and property that she has never admitted even exists or belongs to me, and at the same time has engaged in what is maintaining court hearings that she did not tell me about and that she stole in concert with the United States Postal Service. They together were targeting me together in stealing my notice, which I'm entitled to with regard to any court hearing, where the courts don't even have jurisdiction, but you're seeing as how they're not even operating pursuant to the rules that are created while they operate fictitious authority. Tracy Banks is engaged in what is gang stalking with the government, and that is also proven while she's gang stalking me inside of her apartment at Woodside, where they're HUD housing recipients and participants, and they're all losing that. Okay, the entity is engaged in gang stalking, and that is a violation of, and it is against public policy, while this will be addressed under federal law. Okay, and the entity is engaged in this while the apartment complex, the employees of that apartment complex, the residents and the occupants, those that are coming onto the grounds, just like this demon is showing, it's the exact same P.O.C. While they are coming onto the grounds, engaging in anything Uber, Lyft, the ambulance, the police, the demons that come and empty the trash. You already know that they're all gang stalking. I capture them gang stalking on the roads and the highways, and they do so when they enter the apartment complex, monitoring me and my vagina. They are all being prosecuted by that fully documented pattern of conduct, and they will not be receiving any HUD housing, which is also against public policy. And I've shown how they are going out of their way to engage in stalking a resident, stalking. Well, I am a resident at Speaker Companies Incorporated while I'm managing the property. I am an occupant at Woodside Senior Apartments, and you can see while I'm outside walking past the venue, I am the people of the state that have a right to not be stalked by any means of a property, and those are all speaking to every circumstance where you are being removed from any ability to receive housing. And the entity does this while they're stalking by helicopters, stalking by planes. You see United Airlines, Southwest Airlines speaking to the airline industry, engaging what is stalking with these properties who are engaging in the pattern of conduct and further into murdering people, and you want the government to provide what is housing benefits to you. You're not getting that. This is already surrounding them while they engage in it. And this is the elderly who are demon possessed to their own demise, and they're going to be outside. They are domestic terrorists, and that is prosecuting the whole property. That's also prosecuting them civilly. And you are engaging in that while you will be criminally prosecuted. And you will not be, no domestic terrorist is participating in housing programs. That's why I'm prosecuting the corporate entity. No domestic terrorist is participating or receiving any benefits from a housing program. That's why I'm prosecuting the people of the state. They will be living outside. I'm not exaggerating. That's exactly what's going to happen. And you have the demon possessed that are over 55 who are gang stalking. You have the demon possessed that are living in houses. As I'm showing you, the people of the state at 412 H Street, H as in Henry. This white woman is gang stalking. She is on a mission, stalking like a psychopath. In all of the vehicles that she has on that property, monitoring. That's a psycho. That's a demon. Okay, as I'm walking down the street and I turn around and brake lights on, the demons are pacing on Euclid Avenue, speeding down the street and pacing up and down and honking their horn. I'm not even in their way, but moreover, I'm documenting you engaging in the pattern of conduct you're stalking. And this is the entity doing so early in the morning. All that activity is relevant to what is demons that are triggered. Remember that triggering conduct is also shown when they're stalking by helicopter, like what they do at Upland Public Library, like what they did at Chafee High School, while the entity kept that fake sun. This is speaking to what is already a long existing evidence, and they are engaging in that which they've been engaging in before. That's why they're still engaging in it now. I can go away for years and come back and document the same exact pattern of conduct, which is speaking to confirm that which was true the entire time while this entity sought to obstruct justice. That's exactly why you're going to be homeless. And no one's crying for a 70-year-old gang stalker. Nobody cares the government's not paying for your prescriptions. Nobody cares you can't walk because you're edema, because you have plenty of energy to gang stalk the target individual. You weren't concerned about having somewhere to live when you were gang stalking and monitoring me with the entity using helicopters. You didn't stop to go out of your way to gang stalk me at the Stater Brothers when you're mad because I referred to you as a matter of evidence in history when you have energy to do that. So you're going to be sleeping outside. Absolutely. There is no aspect of this investigation where I am unfair, where I'm exaggerating. The entity has provided ongoing confirmation over and over again how they are predators, how they are psychopathic, how they are obsessed and addicted to that which is to their own demise. I'm not out here crying because nothing is about to happen. I'm documenting and prosecuting and showing how there is no anomaly, there is no exception, there are no exaggerations with what it is that I'm describing that they are actually doing. And this is what they do to people that don't have evidence about it. Who is going to believe that without evidence that you are not mentally ill? And that is unfortunate, but I can also understand that, because if you were to speak to children that are engaged in how is a child sexually violating you as an adult? All right, how are the elderly that are walking around on canes violating you when they're not even talking or addressing you, and you are merely in their presence? How is this? And this is what is necessitating the breakdown of the government system that utilizes those same circumstances and then creates false and corrupt means of what is kidnapping, murder, and theft. All right, it's a calculated robbery by the United States government, the Baker Act. Okay, but the entity is relying upon what is your ignorance in order to do that, and that is speaking to, that's called malice. All right, license 8NGL 406. Stalking at H Street, H as in Henry, on the roads and the highways. You will see AMR at the same corner where the fake sun is over me in the evening. The entity is stalking by helicopter, stalking by commercial planes, UPS, Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, while the entity has the fake sun, again, at the end of the day, after 6 p.m., 5 p.m. The entity is maintaining this fake sun. It's in alignment to me at this intersection where the Grove engages in criminal summoning. So this is what the old people do. They gang stalk with the government by having the fire department and the ambulance engage in, and then they'll throw in the police. The police need to be there to create whatever it is, and that's why you're looking at public corruption, because they have engaged in what is criminal activity, and they're accustomed to stating that this is the case, and that's why they're there and not explaining anything. They'll put up tape, like I documented, for example, Gloria's Cochinas. Just because they put up tape and they stand outside does not mean that they're investigating anything, but that's the entity that's engaged in that. Not answering any questions about what they do. The entity is being federally prosecuted. They're gang stalking, engaged in criminal summoning with the police, with the ambulance, with the fire departments. While you're looking at AMR, you'll see them right now stalking in the path at what is 7:47 a.m. AMR is engaged in that, which is criminal summoning, and that's prosecuting the old people that are going to be homeless, gang stalking with the government. AMR is mentally ill. That's a corrupt company that's going out of business, stalking with the city of Upland, stalking with the city of Ontario. Those are two males, license 49369 Bob 4, doing so while they are sitting, stalking, surveilling at the corner, and then they engage in what is making a U-turn, going right back toward where they were stalking me at the street at 412 H as in Henry Street. Okay, that's American Medical Response. That's engaged in surveillance. They're not engaged in ambulatory services. Their service is to engage in stalking, and that's why AMR is being federally prosecuted. They have a organized list of prosecuting them. That is a devoted playlist to their criminal acts that I've been documenting for a prolonged period of time inside and outside of San Bernardino County. And these are psychopaths that are operating ambulances with which they are stalking. That is mentally deranged behavior that they are engaging with those that are targeting in foreseeable manners. You have the old people. Oh, it's easy for them to just engage. Oh my goodness, my heart, my blood pressure. And so they're engaging in criminal summoning every day. Every day somebody's got a stroke, somebody's passed out, somebody needs their medication. And that is the fire department. That's the AMR. And they even throw in the police who are there when they thought somebody was trying to steal the old person's purse. This is the entity engaging in criminal summoning. It's all happening under the fake sun. And by the way, let a demon have a croak or a heart attack. Under the fake sun, it is P.O.C. It's the P.O.C. So this is the entity that is, again, presupposing that they are dictating the way in which they are being federally prosecuted for a criminal act that they are committing under all circumstances, and that they control it. And if they say no, that's the delusion of Satan, who also is engaging in the conduct such that Satan can control whether you're able to discern that it's a demon in front of you. That is literally impossible. Satan, as a matter of spiritual hierarchy, the demonic spirits are under the Holy Spirit. That is the ability to discern them. That is because those are lower beings. The power to discern Holy Spirits, that's a spiritual gift. And you do not control the ability to discern spirits or rebut the ability to discern. And how do they do that? By maintaining a straight face, by engaging in what is harassing you or insulting you, like the police have done, kidnapping. So you're documenting me, so I'm going to arrest you, which is kidnapping you, and that's supposed to create authority. That no, it doesn't. It means you're going to prison for stalking and kidnapping. So the entity is engaging in all this under the same circumstances, but you need to understand that these are demons that don't have an ability to avoid your being able to identify monitoring spirits that are being discerned through this prosecuting public corruption, whereby the entity is engaging in kidnapping, organized, calculated robbery, in other words, by what is the use of legislation that's entirely illegitimate, while the Ontario Fire Department, while American Medical Response are gang stalking with the Grove Apartments. That is every single last resident of the Grove Apartments that's in gang stalking. Gang stalking is happening in an environment where surveillance is underway. Nothing is happening but surveillance when a fake sun doesn't move. It doesn't move from being over you. And that's what San Bernardino County Fire, and that's what American Medical Response are sharing in while you look at my video evidence of this morning during the 7 a.m. hour and the 7 p.m. hour of what I'm documenting San Bernardino County Fire doing at Upland Public Library. Okay, Iron Skillet, this gang stalking mom and pop resident, is engaged in criminal summoning. They're leaving a truck in the parking lot. This is what FedEx is doing. This is the significance of what is monitoring. They're doing so as a corrupt business. And he's got his communication device in hand while he's doing so. That's a Texas plate K172766 under the fake sun, making a delivery under the fake sun while the Ontario Fire, you heard those sirens? Farmer Brothers is gang stalking and furtherance of murdering me. All right, U.S.050504, and I'm going to prosecute that gang stalking business. Doing so with the rest of the people in the parking lot. I'm documenting their license plates as well. American Inn is gang stalking. You already know that. I'm staying inside of the American Inn. September 1st, 2025, the fake sun is over me through that window at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then Ontario Police, just like Ontario Fire right now in the morning, Ontario Police are engaged in criminal summoning, demons using lights and sirens at 6 o'clock in the evening, and the fake sun is over me at this same intersection. There is nothing that you're doing legitimately under the fake sun. Everything that you're doing is pursuant to monitoring, which is illegitimate, no matter what your facial expression appears as. All right, so that's a prosecution of the corporate entity. When residential, that's the property management company, you are being given notice hereby the prosecution of the gang stalkers that are occupying a property that you're maintaining, you're profiting from, and you're profiting from criminal activity, and you're going to fork over those profits. You don't have a right to maintain them, and I'm also prosecuting you, the corporate entity itself, for criminal activity, for conspiring, facilitating what is my murder, which you are guilty of. Even your employees are gang stalking. They're doing so as an agency to the government. They're doing so as an agency to you as your employees, and you are being federally prosecuted for that. This is your notice because the entity is gang stalking and surveillance is underway on the internet. And so this is your notification, and you can pay attention to your own prosecution. Not only the playlist that you have been given notice of regarding the case against you, But it is a case against the government. All I did was organize video evidence because I have so much in order to specifically identify you as a terrorist, where the rest of the world should know that that corporate entity is engaged in terrorism. That corporate entity is a sex offender. That corporate entity is a threat to the public. But when residents is speaking to what the whole state of California is engaging in, what every business is engaging in, and you will also see the pattern of conduct as I identify Avanath Property Management, Avanath Capital Management, GL Partners, the John Stewart Company, Speaker Companies Incorporated, MIG Real Estate, the Henry Chipola Apartments. All of these means, in other words, of documenting a pattern of conduct amongst similar type of corporations where the people of the state reside. Where the people of the state reside and all the ways in which they're engaging in an identical pattern of conduct. And it's nothing other than a means of organizing the evidence where you can clearly see it. This is how they're gang stalking at apartment complexes. This is how they're gang stalking at grocery stores. This is how they're gang stalking at hotels. This is how they're gang stalking on the roads and the highways. This is how they're gang stalking, utilizing under all circumstances, all those different iterations. The entity's always engaging in aerial surveillance, stalking with the Hallmark helicopters and commercial planes, stalking as, in other words, the airports that are maintaining surveillance. And the entity's doing so by police, fire, and ambulance, while the people of the state are the means whereby you are invalidating the Baker Act. This is what a government conspired and thought that it was genius, thought that no one would ever suspect it, thought that no one would question it because the government is the government. All right, and is engaging in corrupt and criminal activity with a population that's unintelligent, and the government itself is unintelligent because all you have to do is document it. And you can very much clearly see that these are incompetent and mentally deranged, not only incompetent professionally, but incompetent psychologically, okay? As a psychiatric matter, they are incompetent while they are engaging in stalking in a fire truck. That's what you just heard. And that's Michael Gerken, who has sacrificed his career. He sacrificed it. And he's engaging in what is stalking me after that sacrifice is already, he's already out of a job. Why is he even still stalking as a whole department, showing how mentally ill they all are? That entire department is out of a job. They're not keeping none of them, let alone the ones that I document that engage in kidnapping. They're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. You're linking up with these demons engaged in criminal summoning. The Baker Act, the welfare and institutions. Oh, that's what you're going to prison, honey. You're going to federal prison, and it's sitting on the record. It did not go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere while you're just stalking day and night. And I'm prosecuting Ontario and Upland together. While I sit in Ontario, California, at Vine Avenue, and the fake sun is setting, and in the morning, Ontario Fire and American Medical Response are stalking. 12 hours later in the morning at that same block, under a fake sun, where the sirens does not make it legitimate. Oh, well, that's the fire department. They couldn't possibly be guilty of anything that's being alleged. That's absurd. That's literally how the demon-possessed operate. That's literally what they operate. So I document it. This has been the entire time. This is how they operate. Oh, well, it's really even, it's just desperation, because in the face of, they all know that they are guilty, and they also know that the world is watching the demon possessed being humiliated. So now they're doing so in the face of what is already established as guilt. They already know that they lost. These are demons that are operating out of what is a addiction, out of what is an impulse, a concession to inferiority, meaning they're angry, which is getting to what is a psychopathic disorder. They're psychopaths. So I'm talking to what is Michael Gerken, who's not just going to be criminally prosecuted, he's going to be facing commitments. He's being diagnosed while I'm capturing a department's pattern of conduct. He is being assessed, and that is for what are involuntary commitments. You're being diagnosed through a prosecution. You keep stalking me if you want to. It's to your own demise. You already lost in a case. This is speaking to establishing and supporting martial law. This is speaking to and establishing massive involuntary commitments, while a bunch of obvious defendants who have already lost in a case in ways in which they couldn't fathom, and who cares about what an incompetent criminal can fathom. You already lost in the case, and now what are you doing? You're accumulating more evidence in order to have yourself committed, because that's what's happening. 9 NYD 630, stalking at I as in Igloo and Euclid Avenue under the fake sun. Alrighty, the entity is doing so pursuant to criminal summoning. They're all monitoring while the entity AMR and Ontario Fire are stalking in the path. That's what I take pictures of. This is what the entity is doing with the commercial planes. This is what the entity is doing. You know, in the evening, the entity is stalking me by helicopter at this same intersection. They're all stalking. This is how a system of stalking operates, okay? This is the P.O.C. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct while it is serving to have those that thought that they could, as a population, steal from you and defame your character in doing so, engage in what is kidnapping you under the approval of laws that this corrupt entity creates, when actually what's happening is they are being diagnosed, they are being committed, they're being put in prison. They are being prosecuted as criminals, engaging in actual criminal acts, as opposed to falsely accusing, engineering information, creating facts, and then engaging in what is ruining the lives of American citizens that they're targeting, that they're envious of, that they're obsessed with. They are the demon-possessed, an inferior population. P.O.C. All right, this is speaking to what is Tracy Banks. Tracy Banks, who has engaged in targeting me with the demon-possessed mutant that thought that she could go around being me, and she doesn't even know me. She is one that is obsessed with my vagina, while she's been defaming and speaking to that which she should have no knowledge of. And that which she is admittedly speaking to knowledge of is pursuant to her stalking me and admitting what it is that she has committed. She's the one that likes to have sex with children. She's the one that's a serial killer. She goes around killing people, including by having sex with them. She is a walking STD. While she's obsessed with me, and I don't even know her name. But I know that she is a demon, and she is remaining referred to this manner because she is irrelevant. She represents the government. I'm prosecuting the U.S. government that's stalking me by helicopter, while some HIV patient is out here defaming my character in the name of the U.S. military that's stalking me by planes and helicopters. That's why her name is irrelevant. Her name is irrelevant. This is the system. You can have any gargoyle out here targeting you, and then the government is stalking and then using legislation such as the Baker Act in order to kidnap you. That's how this system operates, and it is absurd. It's absurd. It is entirely absurd, and you're seeing how psychotic they are. Psychotic. Having access to ambulances and fire trucks, oh, that is being permanently sat down. Permanently retired. All right, this is the P.O.C. It is currently 8 a.m. on the dot. Alrighty, and I'm capturing this because I'm capturing the entity that is stalking by a fake sun. This is the entity, there's a matter of evidence here, history, long existing history. While the entity listens to me point out the fire department joins in the pattern. They're suicidal. This is a suicidal population. This is a population not of humans, this is a population of creatures. These are demons. These are demons that are engaging in what is seeking to target those that are advanced, target those that threaten this mutant population, and they engage in it by this, through public corruption. No ordinary public corruption. This is no ordinary public corruption. It is domestic terrorism in the United States. All right, that's the P.O.C. It is currently July 30th, 2026. It's 8 a.m. on the dot, and I'm at I Street I as in Indiana and Euclid Avenue in Ontario, where I'm present in the evening in Perez Law, the First United Methodist Church. These are crime scenes where I'm capturing the entity stalking me by fake sun, stalking by aircraft, stalking by helicopter, while the people of the state are stalking at the intersection, engaging in surveillance in California. They are stalking in their vehicles on the roads and the highways in furtherance of murder. These are the mentally ill that are engaging in that conduct, and they are motivated to do so, and they don't even know you. That's speaking to a mentally ill, a corrupt population of what are sex offenders, predators, a mentally ill population that also procreates. The creatures that they give birth to, that they are in custody of, are monitoring, and they're monitoring genitalia. All right, they are engaging in that pattern of conduct, and there is no legitimate actor within that entity. And the fake sun is the evidence of that. Okay, it's ongoing, massive, obsessive means of what is a lost endeavor. They're never supposed to engage in this, and you have any indication of it. We've long passed that threshold. Not only is it beyond an indication, it's thorough evidence. That is replicated year after year after year regarding what is no anomaly, no coincidence, and no ability to contradict what is evidence, speaking to targeting by a public entity. That is the U.S. government. That is the state of California. That has not coincidentally, but pursuant to a pattern of conduct, defamed my character on any day in any way through anyone that is engaging in that criminal system. You are not getting a slap on the wrist. You are going to federal prison. You are going to federal prison. You are in the medical profession. You stepped in any courtroom speaking my name. You're engaged in criminal activity. It's terrorism. You're going to prison. It's the same with every kidnapping of the so-called law enforcement agencies that are engaged in surveillance. They're going to prison. This is how their mental illness, they're stalking day by day in helicopter after they already lost the case. They're all going to prison that participated in this, because this is what the Baker Act is serving for. Because you're supposed to be mentally ill. This is how the system operates. You have a whole bunch of strangers, and none of them are strangers. They're all demons gang stalking. But you have this system, which is maintained as a conspiracy theory throughout the country, okay? Never mind that. It is established as a pattern of conduct as a matter of tangible evidence, and that is supposed to, under the Baker Act, under the Welfare and Institutions Code, a means of what is defaming your character by those who are engaging in the pattern of conduct, who know very well what they are subjecting you to. And they stand behind letters behind their name, such as MD, in order to make legitimate that which is defamation. That is an intentional and malicious act. And you're going to prison for it. And you can blame the American Medical Response, you're going to prison. You can blame Ontario Fire, you're going to prison. You can blame Ontario Police, you're going to prison. You can blame Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, you're going to prison. You can blame the people of the state at the Grove Apartments and Woodside Senior Apartments, the Upland Public Library, Ovid Family Community Library. You are going to prison. You can blame the airline industry because you're going to prison. You can blame the demons that are vagina monitoring, stalking in helicopter, the most spectacular evidence I have against you. You're going to prison. You're not engaged in the practice of medicine. You're engaged in an unabated program of psychological torture, whereby you anticipate that which is imitating the appearance of what is the illusion of mental illness, when actually it is the product of being tortured. But you don't even have that with Erica Lorraine Spencer, myself. You have what is nothing other than defaming me in my absence, because you are terrified of me speaking in any courtroom where you're kidnapping me and defaming my character and speaking to that which you don't want me to know about. In other words, trying to find a legitimate means which doesn't exist. It also doesn't exist when you are a government engaged in criminal activity. And stalking me by helicopter, you literally put icing on the cake. You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. And there is not just one doctor. No, there is a whole group of you, a whole gang of you who are going to prison. You've been doing this for years, and you've been confidently doing it. You did it years ago, and you've long spent the money. You've enjoyed the benefits. You're sitting up watching me prosecute on the internet. I'm coming for you. You know exactly who you are. It is a large group, and that's because this is terrorism. And you are going to prison. That is the penalty, mandatory, for engaging in any iteration of this pattern of conduct in any courtroom under any circumstances. And that's because the government shall not engage in any means of this system. You sat in any courtroom. Moreover, mentioning the targeted individual, participating in that which is in furtherance of murder and kidnapping and theft to keep that targeted individual oppressed. The fact that I'm sleeping outside is proof to you. The fact that you're listening to my voice. The fact that I know what you did and you know exactly what it is that you're going to prison. Understand that. You are going to federal prison. Your inability to stop targeting when you should have stopped stalking a long time ago, that's why you're going to prison. That's why the evidence reaches so far back. When you were targeting with Tracy Banks before she linked up with a whole team that are speaking to a system, it happened for a reason, because I'm supposed to bring down the entire operation and establish precedent. You engage in any of this, I'm prosecuting you. I'm shutting down that hospital. You are done with the practice of medicine. You're done with the practice of law. You're done with law enforcement. You are off the bench. All of you, you are terrorists acting through these cockroaches. They're idiots, and so are you. You're not better. I'm showing you to be idiots. I don't care that we even have the same training. I have the same I have the same letter, Esquire. That's a matter of paying bar fees. Oh, the reason why I haven't paid my bar fees is because you stole from me. You stole my money. And you're sitting on it. You're going to prison. I am not just talking like you do. This is not hot air. You're going to federal prison. San Bernardino County? You're talking about what is a gang stalking hospital? That's laughable. A gang stalking hospital, sitting as the director of behavioral health. He was having look up who the director of behavioral health, because he was having a field day harassing me inside that house. He's going to federal prison. You know who you are. Your picture is captured for everybody to see with regard to the May 29, 2025 kidnapping. You're going to prison. This is the entity. You're going to federal prison, and you're done with the practice of medicine. And you're talking about what is shutting down that hospital that's been engaged in repetitious kidnapping. You did the same thing in 2020. And you did so through things such as the Baker Act and the Welfare Institutions Code, with the Ontario Police Department in the city of Ontario, with the people of the state. People who I'm prosecuting here, and I'm prosecuting you there. Understand, the gang violence is in the court.
I hope you're ready, because this is literally, you're getting indication. I'm raiding the court. You're being prosecuted. You are being federally prosecuted. You are going to prison. This is no small thing, and I'm not playing. You can engage in the foolishness that you want, because I've been capturing every second of it. This is why you're going to prison as the director of behavioral health. This is why you're going to federal prison. You are a terrorist. You're not just engaging what is harassing me and being foolish enough to think you're going to get away with it because of your position. You're a demon. That's why you're so foolish. But I need that. I need that. The fact that I know your name is not merely a product of me doing my research. I know your name. You were there in that hospital under the fake sun, which I documented upon being kidnapped more than one time. Your kidnapping as any sort of facility does not establish that you are right under the law, that you are authorized under the law, or that you have jurisdiction as a court under the law. This is an entity that's engaging what is abusing its authority. And so that's fine. I'll prosecute the whole system and show you how they're abusing that. And once that is done, check, you're going to prison. This is why they're stalking in planes and helicopters. And while they do so, everybody's looking back at you because you're going to prison. You did not ignorantly speak of my name in those courtrooms. You did so pursuant to what is anticipating my demise. Gang stalking and then defaming under the Baker Act because you want to steal a wealthy person's money. You want to steal my identity. And you think you're delusional enough because you've engaged in criminal activity for so many decades as a system. You're going to prison, but you were convinced that you could engage in that, and that's the ongoing power of the that which can never be penetrated. The demons of every police department in the city, in the state, and all of them are going to overwhelm a target individual. You're a fool. You're a bunch of demons. You're all going to prison. I just want to be clear on that. I document you. You're going to prison, and it's all pointing to the demons that are really in need of going to prison. Sitting on the bench, you're holding a courtroom because you don't understand. This is a takedown. You hold any court hearing. This is why they're gang stalking. Oh, there's no point in doing it because there's not going to be a court hearing, and if everybody's going to prison. Every single last person is going to prison. And you did that and more. You did that and more. This is why you have this gargoyle out here thinking that the more that I'm gang stalked, the closer that this creature is getting to creating an updated conservatorship power of attorney, a power of attorney over an attorney. That doesn't even make any sense. And this demon cannot even actually define what it is. I promise you she can't spell it. Okay? But this is the demon that's engaging in that through nothing other than criminal activity, paying people to engage in the pattern of conduct against me, paying police departments, paying sheriff's departments, and they sacrifice themselves. Michael GERKEN sacrificed himself. Shannon Dykes. You have Mick Mahone before him, Mike LORENZ, Derek Williams before him. You're talking about the current demon Lopez. They're going to prison. You're going to prison. I want to be clear. This is some things you've never heard of before. A police chief going to prison. It's happening. It's happening. You are not bigger than the program, meaning you are not above the law. And if you thought that you were smarter than one person, where is that written? That's actually not even the case with you. You're idiots. But where is that rule written? Where is it written? Because that's not a rule. That's not a law. That's not a thing. You're literally drunk with power that has been taken from you a long time ago. So being demons isn't working. You're not magical. You're not invisible. You're not even intelligent. You're being embarrassed while you're being documented. Prosecuted is why you're being documented. While you do so for years. Speaking to what is Derek Williams, Shannon Dykes, the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, Lisa Rogan. I mean, the one at the very top of it, that's who's going to prison. And everybody else under that, I don't know what you thought, but you don't have a prayer, because I'm the person that's in charge, the person that's in authority is going to prison. Where do you think you're going? This is to teach a lesson. You're engaging in terrorism, and there is nobody that is enabled under the law to engage in terrorism. Anybody. I don't care that you are washing toilets. You'll go to federal prison just like Lisa Rogan, who somehow thinks that she's better. She's not. She's a creature. She doesn't levitate. She doesn't levitate. She's engaging in what is a very clear and carved out pattern of conduct, and that's why I've been documenting it since she engaged in kidnapping in 2020. What do you think all this is? She's going to prison. And there is nowhere that, unless she is already in the grave, she is not avoiding prison. She's going to federal prison. Unless she has dropped dead somewhere, she's going to prison. This is an entity that's engaging. There is nowhere that you're going. There's nowhere that you can move. You're going to federal prison. You will not escape this prosecution. There is no point at which this entity ever stopped targeting. You're looking at all that. Oh, you're stalking me by helicopter at the library. You're stalking me by helicopter on the street. You're stalking me by helicopter at the apartment complex. You're stalking me by helicopter at the grocery store. You're stalking me by helicopter when I'm on the bus. You're stalking me by helicopter when I'm in my own home, when I'm in my own vehicle. You're stalking me by helicopter when I'm staying in the hotel. You're stalking me by helicopter while I'm sleeping outside after you stole my money and property. And then you want to point fingers at me like I'm some brokey. No, you're a thief. That's not swapping destinies. That's showing how psychotic you are. That's how envious you are. You steal from me and then you're like, ah, ha, ha, you're poor. No, you're a demon. You're psychotic. You're going to prison, okay? You're going to prison while the demons are stalking. Let me show you a stalker right here. Stalking at SHEEHY High School under the fake sun at 8:13 a.m. A high school that's gang stalking. 9 Edward Frank George 787. You're going to prison. Okay, this is the P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaging in this, and this pattern of conduct is pursuant to a body of evidence where an ongoing illusion of an environment. The demon possessor gang stalking at SHEEHY High School in the middle of the afternoon, where a bunch of actors with a government maintaining surveillance are under the same exact crime scene. And that's a matter of evidence because there will be no controversy as to why the director of behavioral health for what is San Bernardino County Gang Stalking Hospital is going to prison for targeting me. Keeping a fake sign outside of the window of that hospital after 6 p.m. And then I moved to Los Angeles, and I'll give you a screen recording. I'll show you the same time, same day, same hour, same minute. And you're looking at the same pattern of conduct and evidence of that fake sign never leaving my apartment, speaking to surveillance that you're able to see in the environment. Let alone the entity that is lying about my character. Why don't they speak to what is money and property? I'm so crazy. But she's also actually rich and wealthy, and she's also not present in any of those courtrooms. This is an entity whose conduct in and of itself is illegitimate, improper, invalid, unconstitutional. It is unlawful, on top of engaging in the pattern of conduct. And they thought the louder that they are, the more legitimate that they are because of the people that engage in what is defaming your character. Under legislation, all of this is supposed to be louder and superseding the rights of a person and the evidence that person presents. The entity is totally disregarding this evidence and doing so. And you will never disregard the evidence of the government's pattern of conduct. And that's what the government did. And they did so with the intent to engage in murder. Don't forget that these are the same entity. Why are you lying about my character after you've already stated as an entity that I'm dead? I'm dead, and you've collected insurance benefits upon my death. You attended my funeral, but then you're also engaging what is lying and stating that I'm crazy somewhere else. The dates don't make sense, in addition to the fact that I never died. The fact that I'm being gang stalked by helicopter is also relevant to that. The demons that are stalking me by helicopter are not ignorant about the fact of and are part of that entity lying about my death. And stalking me by helicopter does not make evidence invalid that you're targeting. In fact, it is evidence of targeting. And that you have that combination of facts. And that's just that's just one example. That's just an example. The entity's engaging in this sort of stalking conduct, and all they're doing is sitting in the open public library stalking all day long. Stalking all day long. A whole population of dead people, and they're all being committed, and a large population, a large ratio of them are going to die. They've been engaged in murdering people for centuries. They've been engaged in targeting and setting people up long before social media existed, so that the world would be on notice, so that you could all witness the reality of Christ Jesus, the deity, the true and living God, prosecute, expose Satan, in other words. Long before social media was around, they've been engaged in murdering. They've been engaged in targeting. This is surveillance. They've been engaged in using the position that they have against people that they want to steal from, people that they are threatened by, people that don't have any way to protect themselves. They don't have any rights. If the government takes your rights, then they don't have any rights. This is how the system operates. And they sat in mental institutions in the 50s and in the 60s and in the 70s. And they were being raped, they were being violated, and nobody believed them because they were in a mental institution. And it's easy to, okay, we're just gonna up that medication because they're still hallucinating. This is how this system operates. I just wanna let you know, you're going to prison, Director of Behavioral Health. I want you all to do yourself a favor, look at the Baker Act, first of all. And also I want you to look up the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, look up the Director of Behavioral Health. This little dweeb, he's going to prison. He's going to federal prison. And he is quite a pompous dweeb. And he's going to prison with all, keep that same sass and energy, honey. That's why I want you to keep that same energy, because you're going to prison. All right? This is the entity that's engaging in that. And you're going to prison pursuant to this evidence that I'm still capturing about you. While you thought that you were going to kidnap me by merely harassing me, and as though, no, this is an entity that literally is engaged in what is, it's an ego-centered pattern of conduct. If they say, and if they do, and when they forget about, no, the evidence in the investigation has continued since the Director of Behavioral Health engaged in kidnapping in May of 2025 with Tracy Banks. Remember, they were kidnapping at Woodside Senior Apartments. At what point in the day is the sun remaining over Woodside Senior Apartments when I am, I've been a plethora of places, including as of late, while you saw the fake sun setting, I was at Woodside Senior Apartments last night. The entities, and I was not at Tracy Banks' apartment. I do not speak to this stalker. She is stalking me. That has been the case. And I've already proven how a government, in concert with the people of the state, is stalking you through your relatives, which that entity presupposes that that's going to have you assessed as being mentally ill. Because your family, what are you talking about? That's your family. They're not stalking you. That's the government that designs the pattern of conduct. Those are demons that are monitoring you. And they do so while you live with them. They do so while you are befriending them, while you're hanging out with them, while you live under, and that fake son is there, and they're monitoring you in the home, and they're calling the police on you for no reason. They're defaming your character all of a sudden. They're not telling you that you're actually wealthy, and they want to steal that from you as your so-called loving. That's exactly the system of federal group stalking and monitoring. And this entity committed kidnapping May 29, 2025, and with a straight face, Anthony Rodriguez is gang stalking me under a fake son as Stater Brothers. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? It's like it's like they're short-sighted. They forgot. You forgot? Oh, you forgot. Okay. But there is a long existing, you're talking about so many people who are getting locked up. It's not even funny. And remember, this is Ontario. I did a tour. I did a tour on purpose. I went to San Diego County just to show you. Oh, the Director of Behavioral Health is absolutely going to prison. But I did a tour. And I went to San Diego County. And I went back to Los Angeles. I lived there and worked out there, where the entity was gang stalking me in the workplace. I went to Kern County, Bakersfield, California. At what point in the evening, same time of year, there's an entity that is with a straight face stalking under a fake sun. At what point is Kern County Sheriff's Department engaging in something that's random, something that is not clearly shown? It's on video because there will be no controversy. There is no mystery. There is no mistake here. It is an unambiguous and very clarified pattern of conduct as a matter of documentation. Let me get this demon right here. Go ahead and get this. It's under the fake sun, so it's activity creation while they're monitoring at the facilitating venues. But nonetheless, the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and I took a tour. I went to Kern County, Bakersfield. And I showed you the fake sun while Kern County Sheriff were stalking by helicopter, knowing exactly who I am, pursuant to a pattern of state surveillance. State surveillance that uses legislation to steal from you, creating things such as conservatorships and power of attorney so that government can steal from you, and has the people of the state that are poised to defame you, like what Tracy Banks' role has been, like what Eric Spencer, the one that you heard him, you heard at the Ontario Town Square under the fake sun. Remember, that was in the morning and in the afternoon. What's happening when I'm in Upland, California? Eric forgot about that. But the evidence does it. This is why you document Satan. This is why you document a government. They're in an impossible, it is impossible, the environment where they are in fact engaging in surveillance. And the fact that it's demonic is just what is going to reveal who is actually mentally ill. What is mental illness? These are questions that are answered by the one that's maintaining this investigation. You can assess it because it's not what the demons are telling you. The demons are projecting. While they're stalking with light, they're projecting. While they're stalking in planes and helicopters and dipping and diving and engaging in mass acts of violence, they're projecting. While they're trying to steal the identity of the ones that they're obsessed with, they're projecting. While they're engaging in public corruption, they are projecting. While they're engaging in the exact opposite of what their roles should be, like what the military is supposed to be doing, like what law enforcement is supposed to be doing, like what those in the medical profession are supposed to be doing, they're projecting. They are projecting. And this is why you see an airline industry stalking someone. That's what mental illness is. That's what mental illness is. While you're engaging, you get up out of your bed motivated to make sure that you're maintaining it. Those are not humans. That's mental illness. That's what it is. And the director of behavioral health, as I documented and went on a tour to show you, this is nothing other than surveillance at Woodside Senior Apartments. That's the prosecution of Avanath Capital Management. While I go to Upland, California, it's sitting on the record. I went on a tour in 2024 after resigning from my job I was forced to resign. That was the entity that is engaged in terrorism in the workplace. You're being prosecuted for that, speaker companies. That entire company, they're going to prison. They're calling me on the phone while the military was stalking in helicopter over my office. Has everyone forgotten that? Because the director of mental health at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, he's going to prison for it. He's going to federal prison. You are not getting a slap on the wrist. This is terrorism, honey. And you can take all that flair and all that sassy energy into a facility. Well, they'll appreciate it. They'll treat you like the woman you want to be treated like. This is an entity that's engaging that while they're stalking me day and night, and they forget about all of that, but that's okay, because you're paying for every day that let me be clear, it's not just the physical act of kidnapping, which the Ontario Police, Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, and San Bernardino County Sheriff have engaged in. This is ongoing confinement. This is ongoing criminal activity while the entity keeps you living in a bubble, gang stalking me under a fake sun. In this environment, you're being sent to prison, and you're going to be in prison for a very long time. It's not just a physical act of kidnapping. Kidnapping is just like, that is the ultimate. Oh, you're not getting out of prison. You're not getting out of prison. You're not getting out of prison. That is the most threatening criminal act. When the entity's kidnapping you, you're talking about your life is already under threat 24 hours a day. When you're in the facility and they're engaged in that, your life is literally under threat. They kill you and then claim, oh, well, the inmates had a fight and it wasn't on camera and we're going to investigate. We're going to look into what happened. Or the inmate was found with sheets around their neck and, she committed suicide. That's what the entity does. Well, mysteriously, their body cams don't work. The facility cameras don't work. Doesn't catch it. Nobody was in there. You got a glimpse of something, but it's unclear. All of that's pursuant to a pattern of conduct. These are monitoring spirits. This is how a corrupt government commits murder. The cameras don't work. They didn't capture any audio. Or they're engaging in what is capturing engineering evidence, engineering facts of a targeted individual, which is never being addressed. They're not talking about the fact that anyone is being targeted, that they're engaging in surveillance when people are losing their lives in these facilities. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in that. And you are engaged in criminal surveillance. You cannot be trusted to maintain a jailing system. All right, that's what Shannon Dykes and the disbanding of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department by virtue of kidnapping me on plenty of occasions, including as of late with Ontario Police, in order to steal my devices, an attempt to destroy my evidence while you're still stalking. The entity's stalking me by helicopter. The entity's stalking by, at this corner where I'm at right now, California Highway Patrol and the Rialto Police Department, and doing so with the people of the state. This is P.O.C. at 6th Street, serial stalking. License 56396 Bob 4. Gang stalking with the people of the state, maintaining light activity. The same P.O.C. because it is in fact a pattern of conduct. This is Queens Logistics LLC, a gang stalking business. They're losing licensure, and I'm prosecuting them for engaging in the facilitation of what is gang stalking in furtherance of murder. Okay, license plate, you have the demons maintaining light activity, and I'll show you the fake sun. This is the entity that's doing so with the people of the state. The people of the state that are stalking under a fake sun and maintaining surveillance on the roads and the highways. 342 Zebra David, and what is 5V01056, and I'll show you the fake sun. I want you to see that. There you go. Alrighty, that is the P.O.C. Ponce company. Yeah, they're gang stalking, and so is that company. I'm going to prosecute them. They are engaged in the pattern of conduct with the people that say at 111. This is the intersection where California Highway Patrol, this is what California Highway Patrol is engaging in, gang stalking. 7PKJ344, they're engaging in the same pattern of conduct. They include the light activity of what is the guise of law enforcement, in other words, because it's not law enforcement. Law enforcement is not engaged in violating the law and facilitating violating the law. And law enforcement is that which the mentally ill, the demon-possessed, are unfit to be in. But that's currently the state of what is California Highway Patrol, and the state of what is Rialto Police, the state of who else was stalking at this intersection. I captured Upland Police stalking at this intersection, and I routinely Ontario Police. The entity stalking by helicopter, and it's currently 8:28 a.m. This is the P.O.C. This is psychopathic pacing while they're at the intersection. You're going to see the pictures. And this is with Ponce Group that's engaging in that pattern of conduct of stalking as a company, which is an act of terrorism. And it's in furtherance of murder. And it's speaking to mentally ill practices of a company that threatens the public, a company that is, again, subject to what is literally no constitutionally protected right to even exist. And it doesn't matter how big that company is. This is what Amazon Prime is engaged in. You'll pay attention to my evidence. Amazon Prime is gang stalking with San Bernardino County at Upland Public Library and engaging in what I described as just gratuitous. So Amazon Prime went out of its way yesterday to engage in more gratuitous conduct, which does not help mom and pop companies. You're not absorbed. There's no such thing as absorbing somebody else's criminal activity. These are demons, though. So Bezos wants to pay me. Bezos doesn't have a choice. You're going to pay me, but also I'm going to prosecute you for criminal activity. And not just criminal activity, but the way in which you engage in that criminal activity. That's speaking to charges, honey. That's speaking to damages. That's speaking to the existence, the ongoing existence of that company, which is a terrorist. But Amazon Prime nonetheless engaging in that gratuitous conduct, as I documented yesterday, remaining in Ontario. Stalking, where the fake sun is over me this morning at 412 H Street. Look at Google Map, because H Street runs parallel with what is G Street. That intersects with what is Vine Avenue and Euclid Avenue, where the entity is stalking me by helicopter. In the evening, under the fake sun setting, Amazon Prime is stalking at that 7-Eleven. Amazon Prime is stalking at Courtyard Villas. That's a prosecution not just of Amazon, but everybody else that's gang stalked with Amazon, that's keeping its lights and presence in the path, stalking as a corporate entity. That's what Ponce is doing right here, doing so under a fake sun that's now moving to Upland. And there will be no fake sun remaining in Ontario at Vine Avenue and G Street, like what I documented yesterday in the middle of the afternoon, where a bunch of stalkers are on the roads and the highways, including license 6 Paul Kelly Xavier 894. License 9 Charlie Bob Zebra 056. Stalking in cars. They're engaged in that in order to commit murder. This is speaking to the invalidation, the repeal of the Baker Act, where you will not engage in criminal activity and what I've shown to be unintelligent criminal activity by a bunch of the mentally ill who are then utilizing what is their mental illness, targeting you to defame you by virtue of the existence of that legislation that is created for that criminal purpose. All right? That is entirely absurd. The level of what is corruption, it is at an absurd level. Okay? This is the entity, you're talking about what is indicting the legislative body itself. But I've already shown the state of California to be a criminal. This is what the California Supreme Court committed. Why would you not give an American citizen, a resident, a citizen of the state, a basic First Amendment right to freedom of speech, to service a process in a court hearing? That's because the California Supreme Court is a gang stalker. That's why. And that's already on the record. So as the entity is being prosecuted through what is criminally evading service of process, that is prosecuting the entire state, the entire government body of the state of California. That is speaking to what is a comprehensive. That's why the entity is gang stalking me at every government venue, the Department of Motor Vehicles, okay, the welfare office, okay, every county building, the county employees, not just the establishment, but the county employees. They're all engaged in that. They're all engaged in the pattern of conduct under a fake sun. It does not get any more clear and overt than that. Any more unambiguous, all right, and clear than that. This is an entity of demons. California is entirely illegitimate. Entirely. It's a criminal enterprise. And the business is necessarily operating in secret. And I have ruined that by design in order to prosecute. Okay? Now, while that entity is now no longer secretly doing anything, and now with the removal of that illusion of normalcy, you're looking at what is outright mental illness, unchecked, fully exposed, and a threat to the rest of the country, a threat to American citizens. And that is, again, that which cannot be mitigated by some psycho, some delusional actor that is sounding sirens as though there's some exception. There is no such thing. That's what Ontario Fire, that's what American Medical Response are exhibiting. And this is an entity that shall be subject to commitments. When you're being prosecuted for gang stalking, when you're being documented, you shall be subject to what are mental examinations. That's mandatory. The entity that is gang stalking is severely mentally ill. It's psychopathic antisocial. All right. They will be subject to what are involuntary commitments. The more evidence you provide regarding your mental illness that's exhibited through your engagement in the pattern of conduct, the more severe it is. You're being diagnosed while you're being documented. Everything you're saying, everything you're doing, when your criminal pattern of conduct is already known, this is not a mystery. So you're adding on to it. Okay, well, we've already got what is a baseline regarding mental illness, period. And the more you talk, the more your behavior. Look to the left and the right while you're stalking by helicopter. Engaging in what is exhibiting obsession and the ways in which obsession is being documented and observed. Obsession that shall be treated. You're going to be treated for your obsession. Your obsession that you cannot contain, that you can't control. And it's not hidden while you look to the left and right and stare at your device. In fact, it is a means of what is necessitating, calling for, provoking the medical field to treat you for that obsession, while this is an entity that's under all circumstances engaged in that P.O.C, the deranged, that engage in what is creating legislation for a bunch of passive-aggressive psychopaths to engage in targeting you and then projecting their mental illness onto that targeted individual, who they are, in fact, stalking, and science proves it. And there's no facial expression, and there's no position that's going to rebut that. Contrary to what a corrupt government is accustomed to doing, controlling facts and circumstances, that's not what's happening here. This is the P.O.C. The entity has a fake sign over me. It's 8:34 a.m. Stalking on the 10 freeway. 9L Kelly Robert 937. And I'll show you the fake sign at the 10 freeway. Following me as I've been maintaining this entire podcast episode, walking north of Euclid Avenue. I'm remaining in Ontario yesterday at Vine Avenue and G Street, where the fake sign is over me. And you're looking at, Amazon is a stalker. Amazon is specifically stalking me. And Amazon is specifically engaging in stalking me while they are also monitoring my evidence, keeping me under surveillance and furtherance of murdering me. And Amazon has clearly made itself one that is conspiring my murder. And Amazon intends for you to also understand that. This is the basis to remove Amazon from existence altogether. While it's terrorists that are operating the terrorist itself, remember, this is a reference to the corporation. Amazon, the logo, the business, the legal fiction itself is a terrorist. The employees operating those vehicles are terrorists. The company, the owner, all of it, these are those that are operating a business that is a terrorist. And the entity is engaging in this in that environment, which I am surrounding Amazon Prime with. And Amazon Prime is engaging in that with knowledge that it's being documented. And Amazon Prime is a threat to the public. This is how it's going to be treated. It's a basis to remove that company from existence. So this is what Amazon Prime is doing. And Amazon Prime is doing that pursuant to the mentally ill that engage in that very conduct. As I document the demons, they engage in more and more of that. As I document and say, oh, they're engaging in what is stalking on a skateboard. And then they start going backwards on red rubber wheels. And then they throw up the peace sign. Just to give you an example. As I speak to it, they'll do it in real time. And that's exactly what Amazon Prime is doing, engaging in gratuitous conduct. They did so at Upland Public Library, where the fake sun is going toward Upland, California right now in the morning, whereas yesterday it remained in Ontario. And the day before that, it was over me at the Upland Public Library in the evening while the entity is engaging in an act of terrorism, San Bernardino County Fire, monitoring me, a fire department that is stalking, targeting me in violation of the law, and then also using the Baker Act, invalid law, to criminally defame me, which will never create any power of attorney or conservatorship. You're gang stalking, you don't even have authority under the law, you are a criminal. And it is legally irrelevant to even speak of the target individual's character. You're under no circumstances in any position to do any of that. But this is how that system operates, and this is that entity that's going to be federally prosecuted for it because it's criminal. It's public corruption. And Amazon Prime is engaging in that, and I maintain detailed evidence showing how Amazon, you can see from day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, podcast episode, video by video how Amazon is targeting and what Amazon's specific knowledge is while Amazon is stalking. And don't forget that Amazon is the entity. All of this entity is doing so. Amazon in particular will be held responsible as the people of the state. All right, that's the analogous individual, if you will. Amazon is the entity, and Amazon's engaging in that manner of terrorism, and Amazon's going to be dealt with as the terrorist that it is. Okay, so I just want to be clear, Amazon is absolutely engaged in levying war as an enemy of American citizens, and Amazon is doing this internationally. I'm just in the U.S. Amazon's doing that internationally. So they have very much what is a psychopathic, highly motivated purpose in targeting people. So you are imagining what Amazon is doing to those that don't have evidence, that don't have the level of skill to advocate for themselves, that don't have, like I am in the United States, utilizing resources that I have available to me at an advanced level. You're talking about what Amazon is doing to those who are oppressed throughout the world, targeting and stalking, conspiring their murder, stealing from them, serving and defaming them. This is the threat that Amazon Prime is while they're stalking me, and I'm maintaining evidence of all of it, every single iteration of it. It is the P.O.C. It is currently 8:38 a.m. and I am now up in California, where the fake sun is moving in step with me, where hundreds and hundreds of stalkers are engaging in that pattern of conduct. This is how surveillance is executed in California, and it's a prosecution of the U.S. government. P.O.C. 9 MHV 734. Remember what I'm documenting every day. The entity stalking my planes, going across all of the Euclid Avenue while I'm walking north and south. That's what they're stalking, block by block. Everywhere that I'm going, and the fake sun remains on this same street 10 hours from now. All right? The entity is gang stalker, so let me show you. Alrighty, I did capture a substantial video right now. Ontario police are stalking. That's what I went in. The stalker is arriving behind vehicle 1028, and then Upland police are crossing path. That's the state acting directly, and the people of the state. Those, as I document, it's much more than the license plate that I recited, that I focused on. This is the product of gang stalking, but you're going to prison for that. Your identity is captured. You are going to federal prison. This is what the entity is doing at the same intersection by helicopter. This is what Ponce is doing. The gang stalking company stalking with light. This is what American Medical Response and Ontario Fire Department are doing. Stalking with light. That's what the Grove Apartments are doing. Stalking with light. Monitoring. All right? Monitoring while you're engaging what are using what is a means of corruption. Legislation is not enabling you to engage in what is defamation. That's how a government engages in criminal activity. Creating laws that are unjust. Creating laws that are enabling you to engage in criminal activity, and they're doing so while they have been prosecuted and proven as such, and the entities engage in that in the face of that evidence. That's what the Ontario Police Department is engaging in. Now, when you're seeing Anthony Rodriguez's partner stalking me in Upland, California, understand I have more than just Anthony Rodriguez stalking me and engaging what is wearing the Ontario Police uniform, badge, and firearm, engaging in what is gang stalking at Stater Brothers in Ontario at 7:19 in the morning. His partner is stalking, speaking to the stalking conduct that he's engaged in, not policing, and he's going to prison for it, while his partner is in Upland gang stalking. Okay, this is and not just Anthony Rodriguez, but it's also Hadel Shiapati who commit kidnapping. They commit kidnapping under a fake sun that's remaining over the Ovid Family Community Library. Okay, Ontario police are showing their mental illness by stalking at the intersection. That's what you'll see. License plate 1680786, vehicle 1112, going to prison. License 8YAK164, federal prison, stalking with the police. 8CRZ381, stalking with the police at 7th Street and Euclid Avenue in Upland, California. That's the entity that's engaged in that, and that's why Rodriguez is going to prison. While I refer to Amazon, that's gang stalking. The demons that are triggered, the psychopaths that are vagina monitors who are not engaged in law enforcement, they're like cockroaches who manifest. They were stalking the entire time. That's what the people of the state are doing. 9BIF 184 is stalking with the police. That's federal prison. They're engaging in that while the demon's in, engaging in conspicuous surveillance, stalking under a fake sun, speaking to your mental illness while you have a gun and a badge and you're driving around in a city-issued vehicle. That is the surveillance system that is financed by the local government. While they're utilizing things such as the Baker Act, you will never be subject to what is this corrupt entity defaming your character again. And this entity, these gang members are going to prison. And that's why the director of behavioral health at Arrowhead Regional, he's going to prison. He was engaged in kidnapping with that same department on May 29, 2025. And those demons that cannot control themselves, they act like the guilty that they are. They continue to do so in 2026. They're doing so in the absurdity of what is a fake sun, speaking to not only corruption, but severe mental instability. Demons. They're going to prison, and they will be subject to what are commitments, and that's by what is actual mental incompetence. Okay, P.O.C. License 1112-1680786. 1680786. Yeah, P.O.C. That's Ontario Police again. You just want to pay attention to the heavy Ontario Police presence right here at the Upland intersection and 7th Street. That's the entity that's well, let alone the fake sun. But as you're documenting license plate after license plate, you're paying attention to what are stalkers. That's what that heavy presence is about. 7LMY363, stalking. License 8604723, stalking in a white van, stalking. License plate 08760 Robert 3, they're all stalking. And so is Amazon Prime. That gratuitous stalking conduct. And this is why Amazon Prime is being federally prosecuted. No one is absorbing anything. Amazon Prime is stalking with the government that's engaging in what is targeting. And they did so with Tracy Banks. The director, the gang stalkers of any hospital, which is Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, that engages in what is participate, they literally sat in courtrooms while I was absent. The Ontario police claiming that I'm dead, the Ontario police gang stalking me at the same time that they claim that I'm dead, they're going to prison. So are the people. 9ZUB 758, GIF 2VLR, all of the demon possessed that are stalking under the fake sun, and the heavy Ontario police presence at this intersection in Upland under the fake sun, while the entity is keeping it in Ontario at Woodside in between G and Vine. That's the entity that's engaging what is listening to everywhere. That's what Amazon Prime engaged in, and you're being prosecuted. You will not continue to exist as a company. While Bezos is shown to be a terrorist, the company that you're operating, all of the employees that are engaged in representing that company are engaging in what is a statewide surveillance system where that state is then stalking in real time while you refer to it. Those same state actors are key in what is defamation and kidnapping and theft oh, you're going to prison. And everybody I just documented, I just captured Ontario police and video. I captured Ontario police stalking again at the light. I captured Ontario police stalking again at the light while they are listening to that, which is not helping Amazon. That's exactly why and how Amazon and like companies are being prosecuted. License 8 SCY 65. And this is the entity that is indeed obsessed with me, the mentally ill, the incompetent population. That's what's stalking inside of an apartment complex. License 8KXG701, driving on the street, will never create what is light activity on the wall inside of that apartment, like what I captured at 6:48 p.m. in Ontario, California, which would have made it impossible for the sun to be over me at the Upland Public Library in Upland, California, where the Ontario police are stalking, as I am referring to evidence that's serving to have them disbanded and have them put in prison for stalking, like I'm documenting now, and also for kidnapping while they're stalking, pursuant to what is a failed conspiracy to steal my identity, defame my character, and keep me what is silent and oppressed while they have already claimed that I was dead and already recovered insurance policies upon my death, which I never died. I'm still here. That's why Tracy Banks is going to prison. That's why the gargoyle, both of them are homosexuals. Both Jason Fields and his wife, they're both homosexuals. He likes boys and she likes girls, and she also likes kids. And they're engaging what is stalking me with the Ontario Police Department, committing kidnapping with the military, with the U.S. government. This is the state that's engaging in the U.S. government's pattern of conduct, and you have these homosexual pedophiles that have engaged in what is utilizing and stealing my identity, while all these roaches, 9RDW932, are stalking as a population, 9MQC620 stalking as a population, 9LIH967 stalking, 6NSJ652 stalking as a population, with those that include the Ontario Police and Amazon Prime. Don't you forget it. The entity can do nothing other than confirm why you're going to prison as a director of the behavioral health at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, where my evidence is showing that you are stalking as a hospital that's supposed to be entrusted with engaging what is the practice of medicine. And that's exactly why they engage in that, in order to abuse that position. FedEx is engaging in what is stalking in the same way with the Ontario Police. FedEx is looking for attention. They want you to know that they're stalkers. They're getting it. All right, he's monitoring. You'll see him operating that device. You'll see the fake sun. This is exactly the criminal activity. Understand that that's the same Ontario Police, same Upland Police. They're just in the FedEx vehicle. It's the same entity. All right, stalking. All right, license 9UMK943. License 7VZB915. License 9LIJ924. Stalking under the fake sign, and the entity that's stalking in police vehicles does nothing other than incriminate the rest of the population that's stalking in plain view, just like Upland Police. Highway Patrol, even better. License 1656941, I believe. California Highway Patrol has a body of evidence of them gang stalking. This is speaking to the state of California again, like I'm documenting the California Department of Motor Vehicles. I'm documenting the Welfare Office, the state of California, so is California Highway Patrol. And this is the entity that is triggered because they are inferior. All right, and this is what they try to do. They think if they steal your money, if they steal your well-being, if they kidnap you and put you in a uniform, that's supposed to make you actually crazy. That's supposed to make you a criminal, and that's the entity that's engaging. And what I've proven, because the gang stalker says it is so, does not make it so. And because the gang stalker engaged in that to make that the reality, where they have abused their authority and their positions, they're losing that authority in those positions, and they are going to prison for it. They're going to be committed for it as the actual ones that suffer severe mental instability. While the gang members met together under the fake sun and up in California, don't you forget California Highway Patrol, Upland Police, Ontario Police, and the entity gang stalking, such as what is FedEx. These are stalkers that are engaging with the maintenance of businesses to maintain a corporation that's engaging in surveillance and threatening your privacy, threatening your life. Amazon Prime is a stalker and are specifically engaged in conspiring my murder with the demons that just gathered together at this intersection, speaking to the truth that I'm speaking about Amazon. All right, Amazon, with that knowledge of that evidence, is acting, targeting, in furtherance of murder. And Amazon is engaging in this internationally with the idiots that just put themselves in this evidence unnecessarily. But they do so because of the guilt, because they're triggered by what it is that I'm documenting, and they're also engaging in what is self-destructive. This is a suicidal population. They're actually fearful about what's about to happen to them, and so they engage in more criminal acts, which then they're being documented and prosecuted for. This is the entity that's engaged in that. To the ordinary targeted individual who is naturally overwhelmed by this, This is how an entity is then claiming that they are mentally ill, that they're imagining everything, that nothing is happening. All right, and they never tell you that they stole your money, by the way, while they've been stalking and they successfully defaming you, that they stole your money. This is what Mike Lorenz has been engaging in. What is this stalking system? He's going to prison. You're not retiring out of anything. He can fly you. You can go anywhere. Honey, you're going to prison. Wherever you're at, I hope you're getting yourself together because you're going to prison. If you received any sort of compensation package because of the way that this government operates, you're not keeping it. You can invest in it. You can try to move it around. You are not getting out of this. This is a corrupt government that thinks that they can just delay justice, get everybody out the way that they don't want to have. None of it's happening. None of that is going to work, and it's not going to stand. If you got a compensation package and the government gang stalked me long enough for you to retire, to replace you, and you got your retirement, you got your 401k, you're losing it. You're not keeping it. What I said are the consequences is exactly what's going to happen. You already moved on and got your job, got yourself another job before this case is busted wide open on television. You're not keeping it. You are exactly what I said is going to happen is what's going to happen. And the entity that engaged in the delay of justice, like what Jason Fields' purpose has been, like what the military has been engaged in, you're going to prison, you're just not getting out, and you are not keeping that money. They're literally going to take whatever compensation that you took when you retired before this case became public, and it's already public. I mean, before the whole world is in real time learning about what the P.O.C. is. You're not holding on to it. You can't invest it away. You can't spend it away. There is nothing that you're going to do. When I say you're not getting a dime, you're not getting a dime, and you are going to prison. In the same way that the Ontario police just went out of their way to gang stalk and pace all around, those are roaches. Pacing all around, pacing this way, those are demons that engage in they're triggered. They're pacing all around under the fake sun. They're mentally ill. While they did so, multiple departments, California Highway Patrol, Upland Police, and Ontario Police. None engaged in policing, and they're engaging in what the people of the state's role is. Pacing all around you, keeping and maintaining surveillance on the roads and the highways, and they do so while they're triggered regarding what is the prosecution of a terrorist going by the name of Amazon Prime, going by the name of Jeff Bezos. Okay? This is the entity that's engaging in that, and no company is going to remain in existence engaging in the level of terrorism that I'm documenting by Amazon Prime. And Amazon Prime is speaking to the threat that every company, including those like FedEx, including those like United States Postal Service, which is not a company, it's actually the government, but the couriers that are engaging in stalking you by merely holding what is a prop. Oh, I'm here because I'm delivering. That's a psychopath. Oh, I'm not stalking you. I'm delivering mail to your neighbor. I'm not stalking you because I'm not talking to you. I'm not stalking you because I never met you. That's the government system that's supposed to, under the Baker Act, depict you as mentally ill. That is a legislation where I'm showing the police are stalking. You're going to federal prison while you sat in any courtroom referring to yourself as a medical professional, defaming my character, which is exactly what that is. While I was maintaining this investigation, the foolishness of that. And you are aware of it because you kept this investigation under surveillance, which is what the entity is showing right now. You're going to prison. You are a bunch of fools who act toward each other's demise, and you're all going to pay me for it. You're all going to pay me. That's a P.O.C., and that's what the Ontario police who are going to prison. This podcast evidence is a remaining record for the entire population. There is no son that's remaining in Los Angeles. While the entity is gang stalking, where LAPD, the U.S. military, were the ones that were exhibiting severe mental instability, stalking me under a fake sun, rise and set at Alvarado Gardens. This is the same time of year. June, July is when I resigned in 2024. Remember, I'm documenting from essentially when the entity broke into my vehicle. This is the entity that broke into my vehicle while I'm at the gym in LA under the fake sun. The entity is targeting, and then I'm documenting. Remember, LAPD, the U.S. military stalking the entire time by helicopter while I'm in the workplace under the fake sun, where the Ontario police, the U.S. military, Upland Police and the U.S. military, the California Highway Patrol and the U.S. military, the people of the state and the U.S. military, Amazon Prime and the U.S. military are gang stalking me, and that's a matter of evidence. While I'm in Ontario, and the Ontario police show themselves to be mentally deranged, while they have lost in what is maintaining their ability to at least act like they're not guilty of what the evidence already proves they're guilty of. They're already guilty. And the entities engaging in this level of conduct, which is speaking to mental illness. We're beyond prosecuting these stalkers in vehicles 1028 and vehicle 1116, and the demons that are pacing, in other words, the Ontario Police and Upland Police and California Highway Patrol. These are demons who are psychopathic, meaning they cannot control themselves. They're demons that are engaging in what is impulses psychologically. They're unhinged. This is an entity, nonetheless, that's not a defense in that you're engaging in criminal activity that you, no. That means they can't control themselves with regard to their mental illness. And that mental illness is no longer closeted while they target me, and they're targeting pursuant to what they hear me discuss about how guilty they are, while Amazon Prime engages in that level of stalking me, which is speaking to what Amazon Prime is doing internationally. And it's also speaking to simultaneously what the terrorists like the Ontario Police and the Upland Police and California Highway Patrol are doing to American citizens who are not under any circumstances armed to defend themselves or protect themselves from the government that is stating if you're a criminal, if the government states you're a criminal, then you're a criminal. And that's literally the case, because all they do is put you in the gang stalking courtroom. And I've shown the prosecution of the U.S. government that includes gang stalking courthouses where they bear false witness. This is why the entity is using things like the Baker Act, which is a means of literally manipulating the circumstances in your life, defaming your character through what is perjury that the entity then commits, making up information. That's not an entity that's engaged in any legitimate practice of law. Stalking, 7 RKU 116. You'll see the fake sun that's no longer at 7th. It's now at what is Olive and Euclid. Under that fake sun, that's the entity that is stalking. That's an Asian male. 7 RKU 116 is stalking in the path with the people of the state. At 303 North Euclid Avenue, at what is 297 North Euclid Avenue. And then you're mindful of what California Highway Patrol, Ontario Police, this is how the ongoing evidence is going. They're stalking in the path, and they are engaging in that while they listen to me prosecute who you can see in my video evidence, in my podcast evidence, and my images. You will see the psychopath that is Amazon Prime stalking. Amazon's engaged in the conspiracy to commit murder. Amazon's engaged in psychological torture. Amazon despises as a terrorist organization that's acting as a corporation. And that's the reality. And that's why, as I document and speak the truth about that, Amazon's co-defendant, the U.S. military and the stalkers of Ontario and Upland and California Highway Patrol are stalking at that intersection under the fake sun, in the face of evidence that's serving for what is axiomatic. You're going straight to prison. The entity is stalking my helicopter 10 hours from now under the fake sun that's still over me at that intersection, 7th Street and Euclid. All right, but this is the entity that's, they cannot control themselves. I'm letting you know about what is being, its diagnosis by prosecution. And that's going back toward what I was discussing. It's not a distraction. Amazon Prime is being federally prosecuted, and that is the foundation to remove companies from existence. They are a threat to the American people. They are a threat to those around the globe. You're talking about this level of hatred. Amazon Prime very much likened to terrorists that use those vehicles to engage in bombing people and harming them, to engage in mass acts of violence. And gang stalking is a mass act of violence, by the way. And using those planes, like Amazon Prime is stalking me with those planes, using them to engage in terrorist acts like what UPS did in Kentucky. That's not an accident. Okay, look at AMR stalking again. Criminal summoning at 231 Euclid Avenue. Under the fake sun. Alrighty, this is what San Bernardino County is doing on the same street at 7:02 p.m. This is the entity's ongoing, overly exhausted, highly predictable pattern of conduct. COLLIN SHEEHY, targeting with American Medical Response, in concert with what is also Michael GERKEN. The entity targeting as a bunch of demons, a bunch of cockroaches in police vehicles as well. They're all monitoring. So is Brinks. Yeah, Brinks is gang stalking by going to what is the ARCO, they're crossing path right now, stalking right in front of me, monitoring with AMR. This is the entity that's doing so. The fake sun remained at the Woodside Senior Apartments yesterday. What is AMR under? AMR are the severely mentally ill that are gang stalking. And companies like Amazon Prime serve in that threat together. Okay? Amazon Prime is merely a template. That is what I'm showing you. Every single last company is engaging. Every single last one. And the entity is going to compensate for that. So this is an entity that's going to turn over essentially all of that which it has stolen by criminal activity. It includes companies such as Brinks, that's stalking at Arco under the fake sun. I'm at this intersection. Brinks is engaged in criminal summoning. At 8th Street and Euclid, the fake sun is over me again. This is another intersection where the entity is stalking by helicopter, AMR, Upland Police engaged in criminal summoning. These are the mentally ill. Literally, the sound of their sirens is an ongoing cry for what is help, and they are going to get it while they engage in criminal summoning pursuant to monitoring, stalking somebody. But that's absurdly psychotic. Absurdly psychotic, not the practice of emergency services. The entity is engaged in surveillance, moreover, and they're doing it under a fake sun, the evidence of surveillance. And that's what Brinks is engaging in by gang stalking at Arco while the entity is stalking with lights and sirens. Brinks is a third party that is monitoring evidence against it and doing so pursuant to the documented acts of hostility and impunity that which Amazon Prime exhibits. So this is a co-conspirator of murder that's very much engaged in targeting as you document what is that corporation that is threatening your life in such a manner. That's what Amazon Prime represents. And companies like Amazon Prime are speaking to what is the necessity to remove them from existence because of the threat that they pose. Like I stated, murder, like what you see UPS committing in Kentucky, this is exactly what Amazon Prime's purpose is. That's where the level of stalking and hostility that Amazon Prime exhibits, that's the threat that Amazon Prime poses. And I want to be clear, murder committed by UPS is murder committed by the same entity, which is Amazon Prime. So get beyond that superficial, oh, this company, that company. This is an entity that engages in that. They just so happen to do it through UPS in Kentucky. Okay? It's the same thing with the demons that are operating these vehicles that are engaging in acts of terrorism. It doesn't get any more threatening to the public than gang stalking, doing so as a corporation, and doing so in the gratuitous manner like I referred to Amazon, and they engage in more of it. So pay attention to what Amazon Prime is doing yesterday, because they are stalking and they go out of their way to do so, and I'm documenting it. This is what Brinks Security is doing. Brinks Security is under the fake sun. Brinks Security is documented, and there is video evidence that I'm also accumulating and publishing on the internet. This is P.O.C. It's 9:05 a.m. Brinks Security. This is the demon that's in custody of a gun while stalking. I'll show you the fake sun at the Arco. This is the same Arco where Upland Police are engaged in criminal summoning, just like what AMR just did. Upland Police are gang stalking in the morning also. A couple hours from now. It's 9. That's during the 10 a.m. hour. And also in the evening, the fake sun is still over this same Arco while I'm walking from Upland to Ontario, which is showing the pattern of conduct that Brinks is engaging in. And Brinks is gang stalking with LAPD. Brinks is gang stalking at Montclair, California with Montclair Police. Brinks is gang stalking at Stater Brothers, where the evidence shows the fake sun is remaining at Stater Brothers. That's how it's captured there, with Brinks stalking after 5 p.m. under the fake sun. Brinks is engaged in targeting, and they're engaging in that by criminal summoning with AMR. So AMR sounds its sirens, lights, drives by me. Brinks crosses path. That's the elements of monitoring that they're sharing in. And that's a company sharing in what is surveillance group stalking. All right, that's P.O.C. Brinks is being published and being given notice. Brinks is going to compensate me. Brinks is being criminally prosecuted for conspiring my murder, and Brinks is engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct that's reasonably calculated to defame the targeted individual, and Brinks is engaged in that while profiting from engaging in that criminal activity. So that's all relevant behind a company stalking you, in fact stalking you, and that is not speaking to what you are going to then. That's how the system operates under the to be repealed Baker Act, where the state of California that is engaged in criminal surveillance via companies such as Brinks Security are then speaking to what is, because they're psychotic and their criminal and corrupt practices are that which they do not want to acknowledge, they then defame your character. But remember, the entity did not do that to me. They engaged in, while I did not report to them, I did not go, oh, Brinks Security is stalking me. And then they're like, oh, okay, Erica's mentally ill. She's imagining things. She's hallucinating. That's not what we have here. That's not what we have here. The entity engaged in what is waging false allegations, kidnapping, stalking by the Ontario police. So while they were stalking, the entity engages in, as I documented, and you will see in kidnapping after kidnapping, I'm asking, what are you here for? What do you want? Oh, you're the latest one. well, it wasn't a kidnapping, but it's a threat to engage in kidnapping, and that's why you're going to prison. Because you're engaging in that which is not the execution of the duty of an officer, especially while you're stalking. And it's a threat to commit kidnapping. It's an act of terrorism, and it's gang violence. While the Ontario police are at the Ovid Family Community Library talking about telling me to leave. First of all, actually what he said was, you can't sleep here, which was an admission that they're stalking me while I've been sleeping there. But what it is that I wasn't sleeping. I was using the Wi-Fi, which I'm perfectly capable to do. And the entity's engaging in that while they are monitoring. You already know that. The military stalking in planes. Why is Southwest Airlines flying over in Upland, California? Southwest Airlines is stalking me at the Ovid Family Community Library, which is also not coming from Terminal 4. Southwest Airlines is the airline industry stalking with the Ontario police who came to Upland to engage in stalking. Doing so while they are monitoring evidence and are triggered by the prosecution of Amazon Prime that have been engaged in targeting. I want to be clear, the demons, the psychopaths, the vagina monitors of the military climb into Amazon Prime vehicles and engage in the same P.O.C. But it is actually also their employees as well that engage in that. Amazon Prime is nothing other than a means of surveillance. That's it. They're stalkers. Okay, but nonetheless, the entity is engaging in stalking and at Ovid Family Community Library with Leo, who's going to prison, who is engaging in what is arriving out of nowhere. The library is where they provide free Wi-Fi, and I'm sitting up, minding my business, which is this prosecution. So what they were actually focused on was me creating a playlist and publishing it on YouTube. And what do you do when you don't want me to publish something? Oh, you start stalking by helicopter, like I documented at the Ovid Family Community Library for over 20 minutes. You start approaching me with the police that are stalking. That's what they did at this intersection right now. While I'm speaking to something that they are triggered by evidence as I'm accumulating it. And it's never a good idea in a case that you're facing. And it's never going to actually stop the ongoing progress of that case if you just you're stalking. And I'm going to that's the whole purpose of this investigation, but that's all the demons have. That's all they do is monitor. So they engage in back and forth pacing at the intersection while they are monitoring the evidence as I created it. The entity engages in what is criminal summoning at the Ovid Family Community Library while I am using the Wi-Fi where there's no time limit to use the Wi-Fi. And I was not sleeping at that moment, but that demon spoke to what he already knows is what I'm doing, which is sleeping outside of that venue, where, by the way, you also don't have authority under the law because you're stalking me. In fact, you were stalking me in order to create that oppressive circumstance where then you don't have authority to do so under the municipal code. Oh, you're violating. That's literally why they gang stalk you at work, which is also a matter of evidence. What LAPD did, this is what Ontario police are doing. Stalking and then doing so, which is forcing me out of because I have a right to not be terrorized at work, which is speaker companies that hired me in order to commit murder. They hired me in furtherance of the conspiracy to commit murder. That's why the military and the Los Angeles Police Department and Los Angeles County Sheriff and Los Angeles County Fire all stalking by helicopter under a fake sun rising and setting at my workspace, which was also where I resided as the manager over that property. Where this population, the people that say we're gang stalking the property manager, can you all imagine that? Well, you don't have to imagine it because I documented it. And that's the entity that creates then that circumstance. Obviously, I'm running out of money. I documented my tour, staying in hotels in more than one state, and the entity was stalking, including California Highway Patrol, on the roads and highways far from Euclid Avenue. But maintaining that same character under the fake sun and in the engineer light while they're stalking at nightfall as well. These are serial killers. These are stalkers, not officers, not engaged in law enforcement. They have been given a license to kill, and that's why they're going to prison. That's what they just engaged in at what is 7th Street in Euclid. That is no small thing. That which they're doing so casually and so frequently, they're going to federal prison for it. But this is what the entity is doing, and it's very severe. This is the casualty with which they engage in what are serious acts of terrorism and gang violence. While they're strapping up themselves and dressing up as those that are noble and authorized with any means of authority to engage in it. And it is at an absurd level of hypocrisy and corruption. You're going to prison for that. That is literally providing the entity to engage in what is providing them a license to kill. And that's what's approaching me at Ovid Family Community Library when I'm using the Wi-Fi. And there's no time limit. And while I ask him an obvious question, okay, why can't I use the Wi-Fi? What time? He says, what time does the library close? I'm not inside of the library. He's an idiot. I'm not inside of the library, and I'm using the Wi-Fi, which all the rest of the people in the state are doing. They're stalking, walking their dog. I'm capturing video of the military that you can hear stalking over my head at Chevron that's being prosecuted. The entity that's stalking at that Ovid Family Community Library at 2 o'clock in the morning, where the Ontario International Airport is not having, there are no flights, and there are no flights that occur over the Civic Center, nor in Upland, California. Southwest Airlines from Terminal 4 has no flights that are hovering over Euclid Avenue, where Upland Police and Ontario Police were stalking together. Okay? They're engaging in this while they are monitoring with the people that stay at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, walking your dog while the entity's stalking by planes and helicopters, and you're targeting me while I'm using the Wi-Fi after 9 p.m. where there's no hour where you cannot. They have an apartment complex there, which is gang stalking me, but they have the apartment complex there. It's an area where the library closes, but there's no, you can't like be outside. You're not allowed to be outside after 10 p.m. That's not that's the Civic Center, and it's a public area. And the entity's engaging in what is targeting me. And what he said was, you can't sleep there, and I'm clearly not sleeping. So this is an entity that is monitoring me where I'm sleeping though. Okay, but that's not a basis for them to engage in what is stalking. You're stalking. You're engaging in surveillance. And this is an entity that's engaged in that wherever I'm sleeping, which again, Hazelwood and Owens that are stalking are not creating any basis for a warrant, which then Anthony Rodriguez is committing kidnapping as well in concert with San Bernardino County Sheriff. When I'm showing you his partners are out here stalking under a fake sun, all right, as a means of what is surveillance, in other words, as absurdly psychopathic and fully surrounded with evidence. A bunch of gang stalkers. This system is what you are using the Baker Act to defame somebody. This does not create any legitimate power of attorney or conservatorship, not at all whatsoever. And this is why a director of a behavioral health unit at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center is absolutely going to federal prison. And by the way, the director of behavioral health is very delighted to engage in terrorism. He is a very cheerful vagina monitor. He is a highly enthusiastic psychopath that is actually in a field where he needs to be legitimately assessed regarding the actual presence of mental instability. He is a demon. Okay? But this is the entity that's engaged in that, and this is the entity that is served to prosecute itself. This suicidal, self-destructive conduct. I'm at the Chevron where the fake sun is here after 7 p.m. All up and down the street. Bring security is gang stalking. Okay? American Medical Response, gang stalking. The lights and sirens, there's no emergency, and because you engage in that, that's psychotic. You have a whole system just to stalk people and to try to make that person that is being stalked in that manner look crazy if they were to ever allege it. And why is that? Because it's a numbers game. Because if one person claims that a whole bunch of other people that they don't know that's supposed to create mental illness, that is not the practice of medicine, and it's also not the reality. It's a corrupt system that's highly malicious. And that is, I want to be clear, using the position, creating the illusion of mental illness where gang violence is underway, and creating what is the illusion that you're diagnosing mental illness. You're going to prison for that, sir, madam. You are going to federal prison. You are psychotic on top of evil. This is how this system works, though. And as I referred to very dangerous terrorists like Amazon, they make a decision, and they continue to. And Jeff Bezos himself is being indicted for what a company is engaging in. It's under your authority, your creation, your leadership. You are a demon, and you're engaged in surveillance, and you made money, billions of dollars off of it, targeting people like myself. That's why your entire workforce is demon possessed. That's why. They're all demons that are stalking. And there's, you know how mentally ill you are? You're stalking in a mail delivery vehicle? Okay. You're talking about heads spinning around over their shoulders, psychotic, spit flying around every place. That's mental illness. They're psychotic. Stalking in an ambulance. Now you're able to see the proper picture. Everything's put in the proper perspective. They're psychotic. They're stalkers. Amazon Prime is a stalker. Amazon Prime is a violent stalker that is very much invested in that which is never going to happen. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to give specific detailed testimony about the prosecution, the terrorist that is, the sex offender that is Amazon Prime. All right. And that is serving for what is criminal activity, which the Upland Police, California Highway Patrol, Ontario Police and the military are cooperating with, that rely on the criminal acts, the psychological torture tactics of Amazon Prime, of Jeff Bezos, who has profited from this system, which is underway throughout the United States, and what Jeff Bezos is unleashing throughout the globe. Throughout the globe. And stalking me, that's not going to slow down this evidence. And you are absolutely inept because you keep doing the same thing and I don't get any quieter. That should have taught you a long time ago that that's not the angle to take. Because you don't want to stop, it does not mean that you are not being hereby forced to stop. You are going to stop. Not only are you going to stop, you're going to be totally put out of business. You're going to fork over what you have made through criminal acts of terrorism, of treason with a corrupt government body, like what I'm documenting in Southern California. All right, it is the P.O.C. 9:18 a.m. You know that Metrolink is already gang stalking, and that's exactly what they're doing. It's not different for what AMR just committed. It's not different for what Brink Security committed. And what Metrolink is doing under the fakes and that remain, remember in Ontario yesterday, is documenting the criminal activity of Metrolink. Metrolink is engaged in that pattern of conduct with the demon-possessed who are maintaining what is surveillance. And that is inclusive of what is where I'm at right now. Metrolink is in operation, and at Chevron at 159 South Euclid Avenue, Metrolink is operating under a fake sign. Metrolink, Southern California Rail Authority, that's LA County, is engaging in what is criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder, aiding in that surveillance system, which is the entity's criminal facilitation. That's a massive criminal act of terrorism by a corporation, by a government that's in doing so in concert with California Highway Patrol, who everybody that I just documented stalking, Upland Police, Ontario Police, the entity that's engaged in what is creating legislation in the state where Metro train is engaged in what is facilitating surveillance in ways in which the ordinary person is not perhaps capable or ignorant of. That's not the existence of any mental illness, and it surely isn't the practice of medicine. You definitely aren't diagnosing anything while the entity is engaging in what is in fact corrupt and criminal. But the entity is engaging in this system. Remember, the fake sun is over me at this same Chevron where Metrolink is engaging in what is light activity, relevant positioning on the roads and the highways with the people of the state. The same demons stalking on Euclid Avenue are doing so while Metrolink train is a means of that ongoing maintenance of the elements of monitoring. Okay, that's the P.O.C. While Metrolink train is operating in Upland, California, Metrolink is engaging in the pattern of conduct. And that's by design. That's how the state is operating a pattern of conduct. Alrighty, that's P.O.C. The entity's engaging in this conduct while you're listening to this. I'm right here at the train. That which you're listening to now in my podcast would be causing my ears to bleed. It will be causing severe harm. If you could actually hear it inside of the Upland Public Library, you cannot. But while I'm documenting inside of the Upland Public Library, the Metrolink is providing evidence against itself. I'm going to prosecute Metrolink as a terrorist, conspiring my murder, and that corporation is going to compensate me for the incomprehensible means of violating an American citizen by engaging in the sex offense, by engaging in the conspiracy to murder, by engaging in what is the criminal defamation by the entity that is engaged in that pattern of conduct. And they can scream as loud as they want. It will not be heard inside of the Upland Public Library. It's amplified audible activity under a fake sun that's still here after 7 p.m., but it's not when I stay in Ontario, which is what I documented yesterday in order to prosecute Metrolink for targeting. Metrolink is engaged in targeting. That is the P.O.C. Metrolink is targeting in Pomona, California as a matter of evidence, in Fontana, California as a matter of evidence, and Las Vegas, Nevada as a matter of evidence under the fake sun. And they can honk that horn as loud as possible. It will never be made what is the natural environment. And the unnatural environment is where you're identifying targeting. And it's ignorant co-defendants, which are serving to prosecute a corporation with very deep pockets, are evidence against Metrolink. That's why and how Upland Police and San Bernardino County Fire and American Medical Response and Brink Security and the Ontario Police come into Upland, California, just like the Upland Police going to Ontario, California, are stalking me under things like a fake sun. Moreover, the issue is not whether you can hear the train inside of the library. You cannot. And that is something that is absolutely provable. In a court case, you can, the entity is relying on the here and now. You're talking about in the court case, you're talking about an expert, you can absolutely demonstrate that. You cannot hear the train. Moreover, it's common sense. When you're on the train, you are not listening and you cannot hear that level of, everybody's not going, oh my gosh, you can't hear anything when you're on the train. And also when you're maintaining a train in the environment, that public nuisance where you can hear it in every household. And it's interfering with everything and everywhere that you're going, including where it is the Upland Public Library that's a couple blocks up the street, where under all circumstances the fake sun is remaining, not the natural environment. Okay, the entity is stalking Royal Construction. You'll see them going out of their way. Gang stalking Royal Construction is in Ontario, where I typically walk on San Antonio, going out of their way, fixing up that little shack, that little mom and pop business, going out of their way, stalking under the fake sun and up in California. But nonetheless, the entity's engaging in the P.O.C. with the entity that is speaking to prosecuting Metrolink for what it's targeting. It is also targeting with amplified audible activity, which is demonic, and it's psychological torture, while Metrolink is a method for that. And this is tangible evidence to prosecute for what is the psychologically harmful pattern of conduct where corporations are engaged in that, and that includes what is Metrolink train. All right, and the evidence of the fake sun remaining over me at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, California is prosecuting Metrolink for targeting, and targeting in every way, including through amplified audible activity. And that's how you're proving that you cannot hear the train inside of Upland Public Library, the evidence of targeting in that environment. And also you can focus on the specific issue because I am thorough, and you can do that, but you can't, you cannot hear, and you're not going to hear the train, and that's not how you're going to create what is the means of all these things that are created in the city. When they have an agreement to have an airport, and when they have these things like a train, it's not going to, you have zoning rights, you have a normal population that doesn't want to be disrupted, but an entity of demons that are monitoring, they're engaging in what is a chaotic environment because they have chaos running through their minds. They're all psychopaths, and they're monitoring other people and each other. But under the circumstances where they're maintaining an illusion, the train is not going to be a means of a systematic nuisance what is creating what is an unreasonable disruption on an hourly basis in the cities, like what I'm documenting, which is the absurd amplification levels of the train while the entities engage in that. And then I document them many, many times, like when I'm in my vehicle, when I'm in somebody else's vehicle, or when I'm aboard Omnitrans, and the entity, for whatever reason, is not utilizing amplification, and you're looking at the train. You're looking dead at it, and you don't hear it. This is already on the record, but this is the entity that's unintelligent. So they are focusing on me. I am the one that is distracting them. So when I say something, they do it. When they're not thinking about it, they forget. Okay, they're focusing on something else, like what I'm saying, when the train is right in front of me. But the entities on other occasions, when I'm making the argument about the amplified audible activity, then the train is amplified in volume, and you have what is a contradictory regarding what is the unnatural environment under all circumstances, which you will be prosecuted, period, because any noise is criminal, and you're under the fake sun, you're convicted. P.O.C. This is an entity that's, again, under all circumstances at a loss, but this is the type of inferiority complex, which is an illusion, because they were never capable. You're never intelligently gang stalking. You're never engaging in anything that is a pattern of conduct, and then you're some sort of exception to that pattern of conduct. This is an entity that's delusional. But nonetheless, this is just speaking to that, which is a fully established P.O.C. I am in Upland, California. That is Metrolink. The entity's keeping the fake sign as a matter of video evidence at 6:48 p.m. at Woodside Senior Apartments inside of the apartment complex. And the same way that Metrolink is not amplified in volume, actually inside of the library of Upland Public Library, that's demonic activity. And the entity is being federally prosecuted for engaging in mentally ill behavior and then trying to use the Baker Act to defame an American citizen's character, which is the criminal activity of a government. All right, engage in what is trying to psychologically torture you and then defame your character. And the entity had to go through loops in order to do that, because they didn't even get what they're supposed to get in order to do so. So they had to create information about me. They didn't talk to me. They didn't have any encounter or interview with me. The entity is always stalking and then committing kidnapping. And they commit kidnappings pursuant to making up information, pursuant to criminal acts that it engaged in against me. You gang stalked me at work, which then forced me to resign from my job. And I'm eventually running out of money while you were gang stalking me the whole time while I was going from hotel to hotel. And then when I'm sleeping outside, you do not have authority under the law to then kidnap me because I'm sleeping on a bench outside. You literally created that circumstance on purpose. That also does not then create any warrant pursuant to a gang stalking sheriff's department, moreover, where you are engaging in a pattern of conduct with every department associated with that sheriff's department, like the Ontario Police and the Upland Police, where you're engaging in that pattern of conduct. This is an entity that has an ongoing connected link regarding a very clear and unambiguous pattern of conduct, and you're all going to prison, including the department head of behavioral health. That's just one example, because you are all the gang members in the court. You've been engaged in trying to steal from me, and you've already stolen from me. and you're going to prison for that which you cannot even repay, and you're going to federal prison for doing it as a matter of principle. You're going to federal prison to establish precedent. You're going to federal prison because you're still gang stalking. That's why this population is engaging in it. And it's not going to change tomorrow morning. You're going to prison. You cover up the fake sun tomorrow and next week, you're going to federal prison. You're going to federal prison for what you already did. You're going to federal prison for the way in which federal group stalking and monitoring, that is gang stalking, that is state surveillance, is underway, while the unintelligent co-defendants tell on you, that include the military that are mentally ill, the gang stalking police departments who are all mentally ill, which is why they cannot contend with this body of evidence. All they do is engage in more criminal activity, which is putting you in the courtrooms that are masquerading as having authority, having some sort of expertise. You're not even using expertise. You're engaging in corruption. You're engaging in defamation. And you use your license to engage in defamation. You're maliciously engaging, not ignorantly. There's no coincidence that I'm maintaining this investigation where it is very clear that there is no mental illness suffered by myself at all. And there is no one with eyes closed behind me listening to me. It's very clear that I know exactly what I'm talking about, and that I am making very clear sense, and that it is something that you would look into, you would be interested to listen to, not disregard as though this is gibberish and they're not making any sense. That's what the demons say. The demons, by the way, that are pacing all around under a fake sun. This is that entity that relied upon. That's what they don't have to rely on to target me. And they had to go out of their way. They didn't even have the material to defame me like they do the ordinary targeted individual. Moreover, this investigation is proving that they're targeting, in addition to the fact that you made up information about me, and that which you did pursuant to also kidnapping me over and over and over again, which does not create authority under the law. In order to break the law and then exercise legitimate authority, it doesn't work like that. And that's with regard to law enforcement, that's with regard to the practice of law, that's with regard to the practice of medicine. All right, and this is what the entity had to do in order to target me. And you're all going to prison. All you gang members in the courtrooms, multiple court hearings over the years, you're all going to prison. I mean, Kara Hudson, nobody forgot, you're going to prison. Lisa Rogan, nobody forgot, you are going to, Kyle Brody, you're going to federal prison. No one forgot. Shannon Faherty, you're going to prison. You listening? Because you're all going to prison. Court hearings that I had no participation in while you were engaged in what is speaking about my mind state, where you are incompetent vagina monitoring gargoyles with no position under any circumstances to speak to anyone's mental state, while you are engaging in criminal activity, which is also absurdly psychotic. You're all going to prison. You're all going to prison. And you can thank your genius co-defendants, Ontario Police, Upland Police, American Medical Response, Ontario Fire, San Bernardino County Fire, the military stalking, the airline industry, Brink Security, Amazon Prime, the people in the state gang stalking in libraries, monitoring my evidence, stealing my evidence of the P.O.C. and claiming that it's yours, while it literally convicts you. Stealing my identity, claiming that I'm dead. Are you kidding? And then you stood there in a courtroom with a straight face, because you assume nobody was ever going to put the dots together. No one was ever going to learn about what you said and did. And you maintained a paper trail. And God let you gain that false sense of confidence because you're all going down. It's a raid in that court, in those courtroom hearings. I'm conducting a raid and you're all going to prison. All of you are going to prison. All of you. This is the P.O.C. And the demon possessed that are still gang stalking, that is a reference to your mental illness, to your delusion. You are psychotic. You are, in fact, mentally ill. And you are not just going to prison. You are being mentally assessed. You will be subject to mandatory mental examinations. Stalking and monitoring and targeting in this manner. Creating legislation in order to do so legitimately. Abusing your position that you have as professionals in the medical field, in the legal field, and in law enforcement to engage in this comprehensive means of what is a calculated robbery. And you're going to prison because you did it to the right person. Okay? The right person, which you never should have spoke on my name. Now you're just speaking to, oh yeah, they definitely have a system going on, because for you to try to use calumny, to use what is defamation, to try to slander my name, literally through gossip, through a bunch of HIV infected co-defendants who are perjuring themselves. Are you kidding? In this environment? Everybody knows what you did, and everybody knows what you knew as you did it. Be prepared. You're not just going to prison. You are being diagnosed. And all the people of the state, all the demons that are scared about what's happening, they're going to testify against you as well. You don't have any friends. And this is the entity this is the way in which you are getting rated in the courts. Because it shall be, if you engage in this gang stalking, you are out of your mind. You are suicidal. You are pleading. You are at at the outset. Any sort of, you claim to have a courtroom hearing while that targeted individual is showing the pattern of conduct, you're going to prison. That's the precedent. You're not holding any courtroom hearings. You're not engaging in anything unless you're getting warrants to conduct raids to protect that person. You have no legitimacy whatsoever. You did that and more. You're all going to prison. I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. While the Ontario Police and the Upland Police and American Medical, all these demons going out of their way gang stalking, you, my friends, are all going to prison. It is all serving my purpose because this is the breakdown of that system. Play the tape back, rewind it again. Because you don't understand how it's self-destructive. While Amazon Prime keeps gang stalking me, you're going to prison. While the military is still stalking, every time I capture these idiots do the same thing over and over again. USPS documented stalking, amplified plane over my head on the sidewalk. Documented the demons gang stalking at the Arco. The demons gang stalking flying over my head by a commercial plane. Stalking the gang stalking police officers. Southwest Airlines stalking in the commercial. You're going to prison. You who sit and think that you are going to hold any sort of court hearing, this is absurd. You're being put in your place. You're terrorists, and this is how terrorists are being prosecuted. Terrorists go to prison. You're not going to be treated, you're not different than Osama bin Laden. You literally think that you could be in the United States and hide behind a medical degree or hide behind being a part of some department or hide behind what is essentially your position and the fact that you took an oath that you defecate on. You're going to prison. You're a terrorist, and it's a matter of evidence. And the whole system is putting you where you belong, including pursuant to what are mandatory mental examinations. Okay, this is P.O.C. at 9th Street in Euclid. FedEx is testifying against the gang stalkers that maintain what is the use of the Baker Act in order to defame your character while they are stalking as a public means of corruption. It is the P.O.C. I am in Upland, California, and the entity is doing so at what is 9:34 a.m. The entity has a fake sign over me at the same intersection where Metrolink is gang stalking. Remember, the entity is stalking with light inside of the 7-Eleven. That was the other evening. Remember, yesterday evening, the entity kept the fake sun in what is Ontario, California, where the demons are doing this exact same thing. FedEx driving by, gang stalking, 9XVL505 gang stalking, 9XJS179 gang stalking, EP5041, I believe that's a paper plate, stalking, and impossible light activities appearing on the inside of an apartment complex. The living room wall. That is why you are going to federal prison. You who think you're going to hold any courtroom hearing, that you have any jurisdiction, you do not. This system right here is speaking to repeal the Baker Act, whereby this entity engages in that in order to kidnap, defame, murder, and doing so pursuant to what is a matter of what is public corruption. That's how that system operates. And this is the raid upon that system. You're going to prison. You set foot in that. You participated in it. You led in that. You helped a psychopath that couldn't help you. The very presence of these demons like Jason Fields and Tracy Banks, Eric Spirit, you're all going to prison. You're a bunch of fools. And that's exactly what you get. I'm going to put that impossible light activity right next to your face because you're getting committed. You're getting committed. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 9:35 a.m. under the fake sun that's at the same intersection where the entity has the fake sun at this 7-Eleven at 204 North Euclid Avenue where Ideal Transit Incorporated is stalking, and the rest of the people in the state are stalking on the roads and the highways, which is what the whole state of California is doing. And they're doing it with gang stalking law enforcement agencies, which they are showing you, and the gang stalking corporate entities, which they are showing you. They do it. They're showing you what they do. Because when I walk out of the Ovid, well, yes, Ovid as well. But when I walk outside of the Upper Public Library, the fake sun is over this same street. You're engaged in surveillance. And that's why you maintain court hearings over myself, which you have no jurisdiction over. Because you want to steal my money, which you were supposed to give to me at the outset. You're talking about decades ago. You should have gave me my money. You've been stealing from me systematically. And you made a very serious mistake by defaming my character and kidnapping me over and over again. You're going to prison for this. It will not be taken lightly. It's not distinct from Osama bin Laden and targeting and coming against the United States of America. It is an act of treason. It's an act of terrorism. And it is facilitation of terrorism. You are going to prison. You will not be weaponizing your expertise in order to engage in kidnapping. You're nothing but a thug. You're a bunch of little gang stalking thugs. You're a bunch of thieves. You're a bunch of vagina monitoring stalkers. You're going to prison. That's the clearest way I could put it for you. This is the P.O.C. It's 9:37 a.m. and up in California under that fake sun. This is P.O.C. See, this is Ontario Police in up in California. This is a white male. He's engaged in threatening. He's going to prison. Big son, 1591658, vehicle 1028. He's going to prison. This is the entity under that fake sun. This is what Rialto police were doing in Ontario, doing so at the bridge where the entity is stalking by helicopter. This is what they like to do when they are triggered by me speaking to and analyzing the evidence as I'm referring to Amazon Prime. That's what Amazon Prime is engaging in. They're doing so in Amazon Prime vehicles, and the entities engaged in it. The only difference, Amazon Prime doesn't carry guns, or that we're aware of. Amazon Prime doesn't carry guns while engaged in that. That is speaking to what is mental illness. Ontario police coming into the city, targeting me and calling me. All right, that's supposed to, ooh, I'm spooked, while the entity's under the fake sun. And this is going to be juxtaposed with the entity stalking by helicopter at the same intersection. Everybody I documented in that video in the evening is going to prison, and I'm going to document the entity 7FBB 645, stalking with light, license 8MYE253. The entity's been stalking with light the entire time. The entity's stalking at 412 H Street. He's stalking by Southwest Airlines airport over here. That's speaking to that demon in vehicle 1028 targeting. And so is the fake sun. All right? So is Upland Police. These are demons that are already aware that they've lost in a case. Why would you engage in it? This is speaking to the director of the behavioral health at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, the entity that creates invalid legislation in order for this entity to defame your character when they are stalking. They're demons engaged in it. That's Upland Police engaged in the conspiracy to murder. They're being disbanded. So is the Ontario Police Department being disbanded. License plate LR923 with the Marines on the back seat. That's federal prison. Not because it's a Marine, but also because they're stalking with the Upland Police and Ontario Police. 9PMU235, 7MMB007. Gang stalkers are going to prison for stalking with gang stalking police departments, which is what they're doing, including the airline industry represented by Southwest, flying over the 10 freeway under the 8:41 a.m. fake sun. This is juxtaposed with the entity stalking me in the evening, hours from now. Where you're looking at this white woman stalking me on 8th Street this morning. The entity keeping the fake sun at Woodside Senior Apartments last night, and I'm leaving the city this morning, and there will be no sun at 6:48 p.m. at Woodside Senior Apartments, not in a natural environment, nor would the sun be on the same street like what I'm documenting at 7:02 p.m. at the Upland Public Library when it is merely on this side of the street. And San Bernardino County Fire are stalking, just like Upland Police, just like Ontario Police, like Southwest Airlines, like Amazon Prime, who I'm discussing. These demons, 88JL273, ATGJ428, the entire household that are engaging in the pattern of conduct do so as one entity. Okay, that's the entity's pattern of engaging in that pattern of conduct. And this is speaking to what Bezos is. Bezos, the gang stalker that's over what is Amazon, that's engaging in what is terrorism internationally, is engaging in what is this gratuitous criminal activity. And as I discuss the terrorist tactics of Amazon, the entity is stalking in concert with its co-defendant. The demons that are not engaged in law enforcement, they're being prosecuted as terrorists. And that demon in Ontario Police vehicle is stalking. This is license plate 9NA856, equally criminal. This is the pattern of conduct. This is the P.O.C. And this is the city of Upland that is targeting, which I documented while I remained in Ontario yesterday. This is 7th Street in Euclid. That's Vantage property. The entity is stalking me by helicopter flying over my head while the entity is stalking on the roads and the highways. This is surveillance. And since you want to engage in stalking, you're going to prison. The video evidence is speaking to what is the matter of, or the type of offense. You're stalking with the police. They like to engage in that. They're going to prison. And so is the director of behavioral health. You will never engage in what is defaming someone, kidnapping them. Moreover, while you're gang stalking in hospitals like Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, where they engage in this criminal activity to then kidnap you, which does not create a patient and it does not create any means of you diagnosing and you're being prosecuted for criminal activity. And the Ontario Police are putting you there, sir. Look up the director of behavioral health at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. This little sassy defendant's going to prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:43 a.m. All right, stalking with impossible light activity. Dr. Nancy Wong, OD, of Argo I.I.S. This is the video where I have the fake sun is over me in the evening after 6 p.m. And the people of the state, 01752 David 4 in a silver Ram truck, sharing in that same sex offense and act of psychological torture, stalking with impossible light, which is how a population and a government body is going to be prosecuted for acting to criminally defame, engaging in what is the calculated robbery of criminal defamation by an entity that is gang stalking, including by planes and helicopters and with light while they're monitoring you. And Dr. Nancy Wang, who's is losing this ability, this licensure to maintain a gang stalking establishment in concert with the people who are attacking with impossible light under the fake sun. The fake sun that remained in Ontario yesterday, but also the fake sun that's still here after 6 p.m., where the entity is on video providing what is the impossible light activity. That's what they're doing in the morning. It is currently 9:42 a.m. where that fake sun is directly over, and this is at 300 North Euclid Avenue. So this is 300 Suite A. 300 Suite B is gang stalking the entire building. Western State Trucks. Remember, this is where Mariposa was digging in the dirt, gang stalking in the morning. This is where Upland Police and the Animal Services vehicle were gang stalking. The entity kept the fake sun in Ontario, California, however, yesterday. Don't forget about that. This is the entity that's going to federal prison. The ongoing chronological evidence is speaking day to day when I say federal prison, and the ongoing evidence which is showing that ceaseless pattern of conduct and how the evidence is surrounding them as they commit the acts of gang violence, and the ongoing relevant means of martial law, and also mental illness that's being diagnosed, it's being assessed, it's being addressed while they are stalking as an establishment as well. You will be federally prosecuted as a gang stalking establishment, like what I'm showing you, the fake sun over me at Argo Optometry in the morning, in the evening at Argo Optometry, where the crime scene of impossible light activity by a bunch of demons who are on the street at a distance from you. That's supposed to make you look like you're crazy, and that's why the Baker Act is being repealed, and the people of the state are being prosecuted while they target you with the military and the city police that are stalking as well. They're demons too. They're stalking you with impossible light as well. They carry badges and guns in order to kidnap you. That's why they're going to prison, and they're subject to mandatory mental examinations. There is no natural environment wherever the sun is going to create this light activity across Argo Optometry, which is targeting you, monitoring you, which is a furtherance of murder, and it's psychologically harmful, while the entity wants to psychologically torture you and then claim that you're mentally ill. That's what the Baker Act is for. All right, and that's why the Baker Act is being repealed. And Argo Optometry, which is a reference to the entire venue, is being federally prosecuted. Gang stalking, which is shown as establishments are in that specific environment, which is proven through impossible light activity and under the fake sun, in concert with the people of the state who are serving to prosecute you. This is how all of you are being used against each other, and you're also all going to pay me. This is the pattern of conduct. It's currently 9:44 a.m. Alrighty, this is San Bernardino County Sheriff, gang stalking with the people. License TGZ JEP, and that's American Medical Response, ducking and dodging while I'm capturing video because they're forgetful of the evidence that I already have. That's what they are. This is stalking outside of the venue, Upland Public, under the fake sun. Yesterday, the entity kept the fake sun in Ontario. Also, the entity has the fake sun over me at the same location where the entity was monitoring this device as I was turning it on. They were engaged in vagina monitoring inside of this building that keeps the fake sun over me the entire time, where American Medical Response is for the third time as mentally ill psychopaths engaging in surveillance, not the practice of ambulance services pursuant to any legitimate or actual emergency. I am standing right here where San Bernardino County Fire are stalking on the roads and the highways surrounding the perimeter in concert with Amazon Prime, who were stalking in Ontario under the fake sun that remained in Ontario, and the entity has the fake sun at 7:02 p.m. It is currently 9:48 a.m. That's criminal summoning. That's what I was documenting by podcast. American Medical Response is going to be federally prosecuted, and the mentally ill that's a company that's being shut down, and they are targeting with the state of California, multiple cities engaging in that with the San Bernardino County, Rancho Cucamonga, Fontana. The entity that is gang stalking. Also, they do so by driving through cities where they're not even in operation. That's what CAL FIRE is doing while they're gang stalking. This is the entity that's stalking under all circumstances on the roads and the highways. Stopping the sirens and turning down the street is criminal summoning. They were engaged in criminal summoning while it's the same analysis with San Bernardino County Fire while I was at Chevron, 159 South Euclid Avenue. That's the entity that's stalking. Those are the vagina monitors that want to stop sounding the sirens and make an abrupt turn while I'm outside capturing video about what's prosecuting COLLIN, SHEEHY, and American Medical Response, which is prosecuting the entire entity. They're all stalking. And this is what they do. Library stalking, monitoring my vagina, pacing in and out, stalking with noise. These are the demon possessed that are mentally ill, stalking inside of an apartment with impossible light activity. That is not the product of driving a car. Stalking, driving around circles around the Upland Public Library all day long under the fake sun while a bunch of demons are monitoring. And this is what is speaking to the invalidation of the Repeal Act. The mentally ill are going to be committed. They're going to be deported. They're going to be removed from children that they have sex with while they're gang stalking and stalking a woman that is prosecuting them. I am not just a woman. I am the federal government. And this is the entity here in plain view. That's a demon. That's a terrorist. And this is an entity. They're all sitting here in the engineer light. There are a bunch of demons sitting around stalking inside of this building. P.O.C. It is currently 9:49 a.m. That's criminal summoning. AMR is a terrorist. They're being prosecuted. P.O.C.
Alrighty, here before 10 o'clock. Remember the other day when I arrived here an hour from now and I'm not yet at the Upland Public Library? You're looking at a demon gang stalking with her children. A third-party gang stalker monitoring and furtherance of murder while clutching children, appearing to be engaged in what is an intimate, sweet moment with the child. And she's actually a vagina monitor stalking the path with the military and with the police that you saw gang stalking, exhibiting mental illness in doing so. You're looking at mental illness while the people of the state are in the custody of children gang stalking under the impossible. The entity has a fake sun over me at 11 while I arrive later, as I documented, and as I'm here at 10 o'clock, before 10 o'clock even, and the fake sun's over me at the same time. I am remaining in Ontario, California yesterday. And remember, the day before yesterday, as I exit this same venue, this same building in San Bernardino County and American Medical Response are both engaged in criminal summoning at the same venue. 7:02 p.m. And like I'm documenting during the 9 a.m. hour, which I just documented outside, this is where you're seeing the people of the state that are stalking. This is surveillance. And this is the removal of the Baker Act, which is a facilitation of public corruption by a population that's supposed to create what is the illusion of mental illness of anyone that would claim that strangers are stalking them. And they actually are. But they're not strangers, though. They're all employees of the corrupt entity that is gang stalking, and they're all demons. They're all psychopathic. This is mental illness that's assessed as an entity, as a greater societal threat, while the state is filled with psychopaths that are engaging in this pattern of conding together a means of targeting people. This is domestic terrorism committed by the government. This is P.O.C. while they're all under the fake sun and issuing out books and laptops and getting in line at the reference desk in front of me under the fake sun. It's not even here yet. The other day when I get here later than right now, what are they standing under? That's the P.O.C. for you. That is the P.O.C. Maintaining a straight face while the entity's stalking by helicopter, engaging in criminal summoning, amplifying Metrolink train activity. This is all the entity engaged in that together while the entity's as a population. It is 10:03 a.m. Are you not in line? Oh, okay, thank you.
Hey, how are you doing?
Me? Oh, good morning, Mr. Allen. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Oh, you lowered it. I was like, it feels lower, huh? Okay, good job.
It is. So we can adjust it depending on which staff person is here. So your mind is not playing tricks on you.
Noticed, I believe I left my backpack.
Here?
No, not here. I left it at home. Am I able to check out with my phone number?
Yeah, I can.
Are you able to confirm my ID?
You look familiar.
Yeah, I think I left my backpack at home. Let's see.
Just a second. What's your phone number?
It would be 909
Okay.
26.
And you just want a laptop today or study room as well?
Just the laptop right now, yeah.
Okay. All right,
Thank
can
you. And a disinfectant wipe if you have any else.
Yeah, let me check. And as normal, we'll make sure that the laptop I give you is fully powered.
Okay. Let me see.
Give me a second.
No problem. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get the fake sun that's over this venue right now. Whether you hear the people of the state conversing in line behind me, they're gang stalking. They're surrounding me. This is literal stalking by population, right? It is P.O.C. And this is the same crime scene. It's 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 hours from now, and it's the same environment. And this is the entity that's engaged in the ongoing sex events.
You want to come right over here, just in case it's not fully powered. I can just.
You want me to check it?
Yeah.
Oh, the battery? Okay.
If it's not okay, I can just swap it out real quick. For
Okay. You want me to check it? Am I
It
more
doesn't
qualified?
matter.
Let's see.
It's not a good sign.
It's coming on. Hold on.
Okay. And I'll be with you in just a moment.
Yeah, it's charged. I saw it.
Okay. And you wanted a couple wipes, right?
Oh, yeah. You already scanned it?
No, I need to scan it, but I just see that the wipes are
Oh,
back here
okay.
as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're doing all right today?
Yeah, thank you. How are you doing? Oh yeah, it is already what, Thursday? The week went by pretty fast. Goes by pretty fast when you're documenting the pattern of conduct also.
And then I'm off on Monday, so.
Oh, good for you. A day off is always a good thing.
Oh, yeah. Let you recharge. Okay.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Alrighty, as you'll see, the stalker that is on, well, there's more than one, but they're standing in front of the Upland Public Library. They are coming into the library, which is a crime scene. This is the facilitation of gang violence in furtherance of murder and psychological torture, which the government commits in order to defame your character, to kidnap you. It's also reasonably calculated to commit what is murder. That is speaking to what is the loss of life, and that is the malice of forethought is established by gang stalking. So it is murder as an entity. Where any loss of life is suffered by a targeted individual. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, that stalker walks right inside of the Upland Public Library, is standing next to me, perusing the newspaper right next to me, stalking under the fake sun. This is stalking by that entity. They engage in criminal summoning all day long. They engage in stalking and harassing with amplified audible activity. They do so while they're monitoring my vagina. They're engaging in what is pacing all around as the mentally ill in this environment until the end of the day. Okay, and that's the entity that's stalking, following me to the venue, stalking inside of the venue, and the venue itself, the employees, like who you hear, Alan, and every other employee are going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:08 a.m. in Upland, California, where the entity followed me with the environment and followed me as an entity monitoring the evidence and as well. My every move is under surveillance, as you see that same stalker moving inside. This is the entity as I move right now from place to place. This is the entity, and I'll show you the fake sun while you're bending down, plugging in something. The fake sun's right over. Yeah, that's the demon possessed that are also monitoring my vagina. It's a sex offender. All right, that's the P.O.C. Those are demons that are making sure you're surrounded any move that you make. All right, that's the entity. All they're doing is pacing. This is what they're doing on the roads and the highways. This is what Ontario, California Highway Patrol, and Upland Police engaged in at 7th Street and Euclid. And they did so conspicuously because they were particularly triggered about what I was discussing about at that time. And I know that pursuant to what is a pattern of conduct of stalking and monitoring, pursuant to keeping my evidence under surveillance, and that was the discussion of the prosecution of Jeff Bezos, Amazon Prime. All right, this is the P.O.C. It is currently 10:09 a.m. While the entity is engaging in stalking inside of a building, this is the entity that's going to be subject to mental examinations. Serial stalkers at this venue are all going to prison. They're engaging in this system pursuant to not what is training. It's because they are demon possessed. It's demonic activity, and this is the criminalization of demonic activity. It is P.O.C. It's 10:09 a.m. All right, everything that you hear is pursuant to what is the method of activity creation. The entity engages in criminal surveillance through what is very creepy, children that are pacing around and maintaining audible noise. And it is, if you understand the character of Satan, tries to cloak that, disguise that as what you would assume is the sound of innocent sounding children who are playing around at that. They're under the fake sun. They're actually monitoring me as well. They engage in crying. They engage in yelling, playing, in other words, moving as they do, pursuant to monitoring. But nonetheless, under all circumstances, it's the entity that's maintaining activity by bringing children in the environment for them to pace around and maintain noise. And Joy and Alan, Adam Tuckerman, Carissa, Brianna, all the employees are going to prison for that. The entity is engaging in this with gang stalking police departments, gang stalking fire departments, while they're all under the fake sun. The entities engaging in this conduct. Remember, there's no sun in Upland, if that's the sun that's over me, in the middle of the afternoon yesterday, where Amazon Prime is stalking at Courtyard Villas and stalking at Reliable Properties, at the Giant Value Store under the fake sun, at Woodside Senior Apartments, 5 hours later, where it didn't go anywhere while I'm inside of an apartment where light is flashing on that living room wall. This is the entity that's utilizing children to engage in that. And everybody that engaged in that pattern of conduct as I walked here is speaking to what is a system that is underway, and I'm subject to it while I go far from that location and show you what is targeting that's identified in an environment with a population that shall be prosecuted whether or not they admit to knowledge. It's not based on that, but it's based on that pattern of conduct. And this is P.O.C. You will never engage in what is defaming somebody, or you're not engaged in the practice of medicine where you're claiming ignorance about stalking another person, which is accomplished in that environment, whether or not you say anything, regardless of the relationship with that targeted individual who is subject to what is targeting by virtue of that environment and your presence, where it is under any circumstances accomplishing that criminal objective, and then stating that that person is mentally ill. It's literally the absence of mental illness while that result is accomplished, regardless of whether or not you are conceding to that reality. That's not how you prosecute any criminal, but these are the mentally ill that are incompetent. They are delusional, okay? And they are also in defiance to what is being proven to a scientific degree. But that's what the demon possessed engage in. That's their pattern of conduct also. It's speaking to the entity that's a violent sex offender, and the impossible light activity, the fake sun, is evidence of severe mental instability, a threat to national security, the necessity of martial law, the repeal of the Baker Act, and laws that operate in any analogous manner. All right, it is currently, like I stated, 10:13 a.m., and this is P.O.C. It's 12:45 p.m. So the same defendant that I described as a white boy, he's gang stalking with the entity sounding sirens. He's literally monitoring the evidence, which is serving to put him in prison, monitoring the podcast, trying to block it in concert with the demons that are stalking in ambulances and in police vehicles. He's going to prison. He's sitting under the fake sun that's today in Upland, and it's remaining in Ontario, where Amazon Prime is competing with the demons in this environment, and they're all going to prison. So the entity sounds sirens as I am in the midst of uploading the podcast, which the entity is trying to stop. That's the whole purpose of their federal stalking conduct, the whole purpose of the fake sun and walking around under it. And while you're stalking, that's the purpose of being in the library in that environment, and the purpose of sounding sirens, where all of the city of Upland is proven as a stalker and a psychopathic co-conspirator of murder, stalking as a bunch of demons that are under a whole fake sun that remain in a different city at a specific location the entire day. And that's what's relevant behind criminal summoning. Okay, the entity is engaged in this in concert with the employees. You'll see Adam Tuckerman. He's gang stalking with City of Upland employees that are at the reference desk area, monitoring me, stalking. And as I walk toward that reference desk, you'll see in the pictures those demons immediately scatter. They're still gang stalking. They're crossing paths, but they're just getting away from me because I'm documenting them gang stalking in the library under the fake sun. It's criminal presence, so you can keep your back to me. You can go into the adjacent restroom, monitoring vagina. You can walk in and out of the entrance. It's all criminal presence. That's why a whole fake sun is in Ontario, where it's over me in Upland, California. And the one that I specifically described as the white boy stalking at the trash can. The entity then stalks with helicopter. While they engage in that iteration of documented psychological torture, that's the one that's going to prison. The big-headed African-American sitting in front, stalking under the fake sun. It's 12:47 p.m. He's engaging in stalking with the entity via helicopter as well, engaging what is monitoring on a communication device with the intent to obstruct justice with the psychopaths that are stalking in ambulances and in police vehicles. This is the entity that's engaged in that while the podcast is on the venue of the Internet Upland Public Wi-Fi, which is also the city of Upland. This is all Bill Velto's, I was about to say Paul, it is Paul Leon's criminal activity, but it's Bill Velto's criminal conduct. The Upland City Hall is engaged in criminal monitoring, criminal summoning, gang stalking with white boys that are gang stalking with the entity that stalks by helicopter as you engage in what is documenting them and publishing it, which then the government is not only going to gang stalk you and then defame you, steal from you, but then they're also going to try to stop you from putting it on the internet. That's the entity that's going to prison. And the white boys gang stalking, engaging in that under the fake sun. You'll see the fake sun. He can keep his head down all he wants. He's going to prison. This is P.O.C. And that's the entity intentionally engaged in that while it's threatening you. Remember, I don't have to actually be scared. This is not the case. Obviously, I'm prosecuting this gargoyle over here, but you have what is reasonable fear. You are absolutely reasonably fearful, the ordinary target individual, when a vagina monitor is stalking you as a whole objective, and everybody in the building is doing so. They do it with demons that are under the age of majority, who are sitting around, pacing around, gang stalk you, running up and down the stairs while their demonic parents let them loose inside of a venue where the city employees are all engaging in what is that ongoing objective together. That's the P.O.C. It is 12:48 p.m. This entity that is monitoring on the device, on the internet, in furtherance of murder. And this is why every employee of the city of Upland is being removed from their positions. The entire city of Fontana, all those employees, they're all gang stalking. Everybody's losing their job and they're being prosecuted as terrorists. They're not just resigning, for example. My mark regarding prosecuting terrorism is going to be left, and they're losing their job because of terrorism. They're doing so while they're literally engaging in federal stalking on the venue of the internet. This is Upland Public Library, and what you hear in the background, that's audible activity while the entity is engaged in what is an ongoing endeavor on their devices, engaging in surveillance. And this is the population that stalked me to the library and is stalking under a fake sun, the bullseye for prosecuting all of the mentally ill that are gang stalking. And it is the entity that is doing so while the evidence goes on the internet. Okay, Upland Public Wi-Fi is a crime scene. Understand it's a venue on the internet where they're engaged in criminal surveillance. Just like Upland Public Library is a crime scene. It's the venue where the entity is engaged in criminal surveillance. That's criminal presence pursuant to what is audible activity under what is a fake sun, where a bunch of criminals come inside to engage in federal stalking together, while the entity utilizes what are the uselessness of emergency services. When you're engaging in surveillance, they're all stalking. And you saw the visual of that while AMR did so. While I'm at the Upland Public Library this morning, you saw the visual while AMR did so in Ontario, California, at the Grove Apartments. You saw the visual while the Ontario Police did so at the Inland Valley Veterinary Services and Emergency Center at 10 West 7th Street, where the fake sun is also there in the evening, where that same entity, the city of Upland, all of them are stalking now. And that's the case, and that's why I'm at that same intersection where you got a visual of this criminal surveillance system, because the entity is stalking by helicopter under the same fake sun that's there after 6 p.m., after 5 p.m., after 7 p.m., and the entity is targeting the same. Okay, the Upland Public Library workforce, they are being documented. The PDF where you can get a visual of the mentally ill. Take a look at what demon possession is appearing as. They want to appear as normal, everyday people. You listen to them being so cheerful. Hey, Erica, how's it going? And they're psychopaths that are engaged in monitoring mind genitalia with demons that are stalking in police vehicles, engaged in an ongoing delusional effort to stop podcast evidence from being published. And not only is that not being stopped, you're going to prison for trying to stop it, which is futile. I've been prosecuting you via podcast, one method, for years. So engaging what is slowing down the internet while a bunch of gang stalkers surround, like the white boy that's engaging in terrorism, stalking at a trash, which makes a loser. A vagina monitor feel like they're doing something, and all they're doing is accumulating evidence to be committed. But nonetheless, this is what the demon-possessed do. They're engaging in what is monitoring evidence online, and they're doing so while they are targeting the person that this entity first sought to criminally defame. This is the terrorism that the state of California is engaging in, and this is the repeal of the Baker Act. You're not addressing anybody or diagnosing anybody as mentally ill when you are mentally ill and entirely corrupt. But that is all behind the sounding of sirens. Okay, this will be added to the podcast. It's currently 12:52 under a fake sun. Remember, in the afternoon, I have yet to be outside to capture Amazon Prime gang stalking at giant value, reliable properties. This is the prosecution of that entity that's engaging in that while they're stalking with noise and stalking in the path in a whole other city in an entirely impossible environment, which is speaking to stalking by trains, stalking by ambulances, and stalking by fire departments, stalking by police departments, stalking by state police, stalking by the military, stalking by airline companies, stalking by a population. Okay, this is the P.O.C. It's public corruption, which is exposing massive mental illness, not suffered by a targeted individual, but indeed suffered by a population which is posing a national security threat. Okay, P.O.C. It is 12:52 p.m. Oh, by the way, you are, like I stated, you're going to prison while you are gang stalking with the entity by helicopter, and you're sitting around monitoring the evidence like the people of the state are doing. And the serial stalkers are documented in the PDF that's being uploaded regarding Upland Public Library. This is the same analysis for all of the city libraries that are gang stalking with the people, just like you see Upland Public Library engaging in. It is the government targeting with the population. That is the entity engaging in the P.O.C. What happened? I'm just waiting to get kicked out. Is it the drug addict or what is it? Which one's getting me kicked out? The drug addict? Is it you? Opening up your eyes? The federal agent is what you call me, right? Okay. Right, okay. I'm just waiting. I'm just gonna find out. All right. This is the P.O.C. You have the demons that are stalking by helicopter, engaging in harassment, drug addicts, homeless, gang stalking, under the fake sun, and threatening to get me kicked out while they're being addressed as stalkers and imps, minions, drug addicts. This is the entity that's gang stalking. Mothers that are coming in here gang stalking with kids, they're all monitoring under their devices. Wait, I'm sorry. Are you getting me kicked out now? Am I getting kicked out now? No? What's happening? This is the P.O.C. I'm waiting for a drug addict to get me kicked out of the library for referring to him while he is stalking me in the library. This is the entity that's engaged in targeting under the fake sun, making those threats. The entity that's stalking by helicopter. This is the entity that's entirely mentally ill, as though nothing is happening. Everything that you're stating is going to be used against you. They're all in here stalking by helicopter and coming in the next day like that didn't happen. This is the entity that's engaged in terrorism. And then the gang stalkers are engaged in targeting together. Just want to be clear on that. So I'm waiting for the entity. He goes and approaches the gang stalkers that work here, and I don't know what he's telling them because he's using F-bombs and speaking to me while he is monitoring, and him and his drug addict buddy are here harassing me, stalking, standing behind me while the entity's turning the internet off. They're monitoring. And then they're engaging in what is standing behind me, engaging in that pattern. This is analogous to what the Ontario Police Department did this morning. Stalking coming up behind me while the entity is in an Ontario Police vehicle, gang stalking, while the entity, that's what the entity is doing, turning off the internet. This is not failure of Upland Wi-Fi. Turning off the internet, and then a stalker creeps up behind and they start stalking in the path while the entity is affecting the internet access. They're monitoring together. So while they're referred to in this drug addict is talking with his eyes closed, oh, this is my city, I run this city. I don't know what, and he's calling me a federal agent. I've never seen him before calling me a federal agent. This is the demon that's on video stalking under the fake sun that's still over the same Upland Public Library where Adam Tuckerman is stalking in the path at what is 1:53 p.m. He's the one that is on video engaged in the pattern of conduct, and he's the one that's also engaged in harassment. And him and his buddy, the one that's stalking by helicopter, that is referring to me, well, he's not really speaking, he's just saying, you're effing talking to your buddy, talking to him. And while he's yelling and cussing, this is a frustrated gang stalker that's being referred to as an imp. They are imps. They're imps, they're minions, and they're also drug addicts. But the entity is engaged in this P.O.C. while he's going to the library. I'm just waiting for the entity to please come say something to me about the people of the state that are gang stalking in the library. This is Laura and Adam Tuckerman, and they also know that they're being recorded. Context. Edgar, Stater Brothers, confidently approaches while he's aware that I don't have a phone on me. And this is why when I started recording on July 13, 2026, he was running away. And I mean running, he was fleeing. And did not come back and tell me, who is it that I said terrible, horrible things to in the store while there was no event that precipitated you telling me that you wanted me to leave a grocery store at that. I'm holding a chicken pot pie thinking about, do I want to buy this or not? And you're approaching me talking about horrible things that I said to someone, and I never spoke to anybody. I hadn't made a purchase yet, and I just came out of the bathroom, however, while I was operating my device and documenting vagina monitoring. This is the entity that's engaging in such acts such as what Edgar did inside of Stater Brothers, where the entity is referring to evidence very unintelligently because it's an admission. These are creatures. They're not intelligent beings. Making admissions about monitoring evidence that you shouldn't have any knowledge about. But also, it's not a criminal act. I'm absolutely prosecuting you. Absolutely. But you're making an admission to monitoring while you're talking about that, which you're not in the bathroom stall, right? So what are you talking about, Satan? This is an entity that's engaged in that. And so I just want to be clear. While a third party makes a threat, you want me to get you kicked out of the library right now? And he said a lot more F-bombs when he was talking. He was yelling and cussing. And this is the one that's stalking by helicopter, the white boy, a serial stalker, threatening my life, and then also threatening to be able to exert, I've got power to get you kicked out of the library. This is what he's stating. And so he goes and approaches Laura. And this is an entity, he walks away. So that's why you hear me, I'm perplexed, and I'm sorry, I'm just waiting to get kicked out. Who's gonna, I just wanna find out at what point actually is the kicking out going to happen, pursuant to what, while they are engaged in, again, the pattern of conduct. This is an entity that operates within that illusion. Nothing is happening. You are imagining it. You're harassing them. They're gonna have you removed. You're engaged, and they make all manner of series of admissions while they commit that. This is the reality is the entity is monitoring on the internet. And then gang stalkers are creeping up behind me. Gang stalkers that have a history of stalking me with helicopters in the specific environment, which is psychologically harmful, letting you know before they even engage in any activity creation, before you even see anyone, that you're under surveillance. And these are both documented terrorists. This is the P.O.C. The entity is engaged in turning the internet on and off. It is pursuant to that same entity that is gang stalking, making a threat that you're going to kick me out while you are monitoring with the people. This is why the entity is going to prison. This is an entity that's delusional. The government is acting like it has authority. The people of the state, the vagina monitoring imps that despise being called what they are, they're imps, they're demons, and they're also imps. They're employees of the government that's unintelligent, and their unintelligent system is being prosecuted. But this is the P.O.C. It's 1:57 p.m. All right, very gross, very creepy behavior. 9 Bob Kelly Paul 470. Oh, and her mouth is gross also. Gang stalking and stalking with impossible light activity while the entity has light dragging across Walmart. Walmart, if you'll recall the evidence of me being at gang stalking, facilitating venue Walmart, that's engaged in terrorism. 9 Larry Sam Kelly 974 is engaged in, you heard that noise? Strategic noise under the fake sun with signal security, stalking with light. You'll see the picture of them stalking. They're using the company, the vehicle, their job as a means of surveillance with the entity that is, guess what, stalking by helicopter. Big surprise, right? This is the child rapists who are stalking as a population. Child rapists are operating Walmart. Child rapists are operating signal security vehicles. Child rapists are documented by license plate, which you just heard. Child rapists are stalking me in Upland Police Department vehicles, because that's what you'll see while I leave Upland Upland Public Library. Remember, the entity's keeping the fakes on. What is Amazon Prime under in Ontario, where I didn't even leave the block. Neither did that fake son. And the creepy stalking by demons, these are child rapists that are stalking with impossible light. This is a child rapist, 6 Edward Sam David 172. And he's driving a black Honda Accord. These are child rapists that are gang stalking. Child rapists are demon possessed also. That's why the child rapist is gang stalking through the airline industry. The child rapists that are operating and working for gang stalking via Amazon Prime. As you saw, the child rapists of the Ontario Police, California High Patrol, these are child rapists. And they are engaged in very creepy conduct. The light activity that you already saw inside of Walmart in May of 2026, my latest evidence regarding this terrorist Walmart that's been engaged in stalking me routinely at many Walmarts, not just these fools in Ontario, not just the child rapists in Ontario. At 333 North Mountain Avenue, 1333 North Mountain Avenue, they share the pattern of conduct with Burbank Police, with San Bernardino County Sheriff that's policing in Hesperia, California. They share the pattern of conduct with what you also know as Upland Police, who are all engaged in the conduct of child rapists, stalking by helicopters, stalking with light, sitting around stalking the targeted individual that is also the federal prosecutor, which is the bait for child rapists to gang stalk me while I prosecute them and expose them. The entity has a fake sun over me at Walmart in Ontario, where they are stalking as a population. And the light activity inside of Walmart, captured in May of 2026, is shown while I step outside and the fake sun is over me. That was during the 9-10 a.m. hour. It is 3:52 p.m. and that's just isolating it to prosecuting the corporate entity, Walmart, because the entity is keeping the fake sun over the Upland Public Library. It's keeping it over the Ovid Family Community Library when I stay there. It's keeping it over my apartment in Los Angeles, where LAPD is gang stalking by helicopter, and Speaker Companies is hiring me in furtherance of murdering me as an entity. It's keeping it over what is
reliable properties where the fake sun is present from morning until evening, actually. That's the entity that is stalking. And these are indeed, I want to be clear, child rapists. And that's what's the prosecution of Southwest Airlines. Not just engaged in what is murder, but they rape children and they facilitate it as a gang stalking company. That's the whole purpose for Southwest Airlines, by the way. They are created as an entity to engage in what is this very criminal conduct. All right, license plate, stalking with the entity. Child rapist 9 Larry Queen Victor 097, under the fake sun, where the entity is stalking with light, stalking via aircraft. You saw all this in the morning at Walmart. I'm in the afternoon at Walmart, and you will see the fake sun over that facilitating venue. While they are molesting me with light, reaching on the inside, and stalking, dragging light on the outside, under a fake sun. And the demons that are in Upland police vehicles en route to this venue, they're going to prison. I very clearly captured their license plates. Those child rapists are going to prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently in Ontario, California at Mountain in Euclid, 3:53 p.m.